So appreciate everybody joining today. We're going to be talking about Expo 67, and it's supposed to be nice and warm and everything here inside the house. And I hope with the storms and everything back east, everybody is going to fare well through it. I don't think today'd be a good day to go visit the Expo 67 site, but we can visit it in warmer weather. So let me start sharing the screen here. I have some pictures from the later years as well, Mana's World. So we'll go through some of these. As in prior talks from the Vault series, these are ones that are not yet restored. This particular set, unfortunately, was the storage conditions that it was probably kept in were really not the best. So you're going to see all sorts of mold and things that I will someday attempt to get rid of, and that's why they're in the to be done pile. But these have had a preliminary restore done on them. So they had a troop of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police that stayed with their horses and rode out and let everybody come out. I don't know how they train these horses, but boy, talk about the patience that they have to have thousands of people coming out and deciding that they have to pet you. So I read something that one of the Mounties said it was just an absolutely wonderful experience for them to do, because he was from another part of Canada and so he wasn't really familiar with Montreal. They had to rotate people in and out. They didn't stay the entire time, but they did a whole ceremony where they came out in an arena, and just like the Blue Angels go in close formation, the horses would ride at facing each other at high speed and luckily miss each other. So he said it was a great experience. As I say,
It was funny. We were in Central Park. I think you saw the picture, taking a carriage ride, and afterward the guy who ran the carriage said, "Do you want to pet the horse?" And I said, "Well, I didn't think he would let us. Didn't want to get close to him." He said, "Well, he won't let you get near him, but if you have a carrot in your hand," and he handed us each carrot, and the horse would let us as long as we had a carrot. The horse loved us. Horse loved us.
Yeah.
You couldn't
You
pet him
have
or touch him or
food,
what.
they'll love you.
Yeah.
The idea is to get them to love you without the food.
yeah.
Yeah. I took some horseback riding lessons long time ago. And one of the things that they always like to do is have you ride in formation and do figure eights and cross each other, as you're riding along. That's something a lot of people in horseback riding, if it's a whole group, they like you to teach you. So
get you ready for dressage for the Olympics.
well, it gets you ready for a parade, I guess.
Yeah.
Bill, you have control of the horse.
Yeah.
Bill, how do you get rid of that mold and all that? It's embedded into the
Yeah. So basically,
slide,
the sky parts are easy.
Yeah.
Basically, just using the clone tool.
Right.
Take it out. It's when it gets down into things like here, the shirt and everything,
Yeah.
it becomes a lot of tiny little manipulations of
Okay. Yeah.
a clean piece of the shirt and put it up to the dirty part of the shirt.
Yeah. I've done that work on some other things too. I thought maybe there was a chemical that you could dip them in or whatever, but
No. Once it's in the slide, there is something called Edwall. That's a chemical that I can use to try to clean and get some of it off. But I have to use it very sparingly. A, it smells like hell, and B, they don't make it anymore. So I tend to leave it in case any of my family photos need treatment.
Sure.
So we watch a bunch of the people here wrestling their feet. You can imagine walking all over the site on a hot day, and it looks pretty warm from the way most people are dressed. But they're all cooling the feet. And we're up top. I think this was done from the Caddy Mavic, if I remember, and looking down, just all sorts of people wandering around. Nice day, not too crowded, not raining. Over to the United Nations pavilion, flags of the nations. Not these are all the members of the United Nations, not necessarily all the ones participating at Expo. And going off to Britain, I always got a kick out of it wasn't Great Britain, it was Britain Pavilion. I don't know if there was a particular reason with that, with Canadian sensibilities or whatever. Down at Mexico, we have the mariachis up here and everybody going into the pavilion itself. So to me, this looks like would have been a great entrance into the pavilion, but no, it was just a set of stairs up to the archway. And this one, you can see again how bad the mold has gotten on some of these. And some of these, frankly, if it takes too long, I'm just going to label the folder damaged and leave it at that. But we had seen this building over here at the 64 World's Fair, and then they expanded it out for a bigger restaurant and exhibit area. And all this is down here, the Royal Barge and everything was all new for Expo 67. Even though they had fences up here with a little chain, a lot of times people decide they just had to come down here and pose for this particular thing. And I just wonder over the years how many people came down and fell in these canals. And some of them they had life preservers scattered around, and others, again, I just wonder how many people got down in there. So we're over at the Canada Pavilion, which had the Katimavik, the inverted pyramid, but it also had the other parts of Canada represented. So, "Oh Canada, my home, my native land, etched into the wood." I thought that was kind of nice. Here's one for Don, the state of Vermont. It was a fairly small pavilion, but it was done to represent the mountains of Vermont, so very angular here. When I went back in later years, it was strange to see this as Poland, that when Vermont had to come back, it was rented by a number of other people. And yeah, Poland, I guess it was the mountains of Poland.
Bill, where your cursor is there, is that bark, like, slabs of wood with the bark on them there? I can't tell.
Yes, it's all wood facade. Yes, right.
Yeah, with the
Right.
rough
I'm surprised we
bark.
didn't just build a giant can of maple syrup.
And I believe this is Jamaica. A number of the countries had people come over to represent their police force, the Carabinieri from Italy, and others dressed in their outfits. They didn't, of course, have any police powers when they were there in Montreal, but they were there as part of the tourist package. That people like to pose and send the pictures back home, and maybe you'll come over and see us in action. Jamaica is one of the few pavilions still existing on the site. For whatever reason, when all the others were torn down, they left the Jamaica Pavilion. About 3-4 years ago, I think they did another rehab on it. Carol and I were there a couple of years ago, and it was empty inside, but they've refurbed it, and you can go and rent it for things like a wedding venue. So, like I said, most of the buildings are gone. The site is a really beautiful park. If you get to go to Montreal, it's really a very nice area to go through. But this survived through the whole Man in His World days. It survived through the floral exhibitions and all the ones that were taken out for the Olympics. But Jamaica is still there. Then we go and we wait for the Expo Express train, the first fully automatic railroad operating in at least North America, if not the world. Mentioned in earlier talks how everybody got so unnerved by that. They actually, and the union didn't like it. They paid a guy to sit in the engineer's cab, and all he did was push the button, open the doors when it got to the stations. So it was a very popular system. They had hopes. I think a Canadian company called Hunter something built it, and they had high hopes of selling it to others. And just like the AMF monorail for New York didn't sell other places, this sat there. They were going to export it to another country. That deal fell through. It sat in the port of Montreal for several years and was finally scrapped.
Why didn't they connect that train to the main subway system so people had direct access to the fairgrounds?
No, it was a total standalone. Go from one end, turn around, go back to the other.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
It looks like a full subway.
yeah, but if you look like at a map or whatever of Expo, you actually had direct access via the metro. It dropped you off right in the middle of the grounds.
Yeah, But you would then have to change if you wanted to get on this to go through the grounds. It didn't give,
Right.
yeah, it didn't have multiple stops.
It also Roger LaRoche has some early studies of Expo and various sites that were considered. And at one time, they actually did consider running. I don't know, it was that particular Expo Express train, but some form of transportation that would go into Old Montreal to the fairgrounds. More integrated, like you said.
Yeah, I think it ran into budget and logistic issues.
Right.
Yeah. So while you were there, you could go take a boat ride. They were named Vaporettos after the boats that go through the canals in Venice. I don't know if they particularly look Venetian, not the ones I rode in Venice, but it was a way that you could get your time around. I think that, if I remember right, the price is up here. So, yep, Vaporetto, they had, adults and children prices. So 50 cents, not too bad a ride. Then we had lots of fun rides over in the La Ronde area. And this particular one, you can go in a simulated bobsled. So we have to have all the mountain type stuff behind. I'm not a big fan of the things that get spun around in very high speed circles. So I'm sure I would have skipped this one, but the La Ronde area was very, very popular part of the whole experience. I love the Hofbräu House in Munich. This is, of course, is not the Hofbräu House to go drinking in. It's a traditional dark ride where you go in and all sorts of things jump out and try to scare you. Right in the back is the framework for the Gyrotron, the biggest build and biggest disappointment ride there in the La Ronde area.
Bill,
Yes.
you said you're not fond of the spin around ride. Is that
Yeah.
now or were you then?
No, I never really was. I can remember we had a place I lived in New York, and my town's name was Baldwin, and we had a very small amusement park there called Nunley's. And Nunley's was a great spot to go to, and it had a Tubs of Fun ride. I actually remember the name of it really well. And my buddy Bob Radke and I went on that and decided we would see just how fast you could get the Tub of Fun ride to go. We got it to go very, very fast, and I got very, very sick. And after that, I just was not a thrill of it. What was really funny, I'm trying to remember where I was just in the last week. I ran into somebody and he said he was from New York, and I said where, and he said Long Island, and it was the town next to ours. And he asked if I ever went to Nunley's. I said, oh yeah, I went to Nunley's, and they tore it down. It's now a Pep Boys Auto Parts or something. But in my wallet, I still have today a Pep Boys, not Pep Boys, right? A Nunley's good for one ride coupon. So every time I meet somebody from New York, I can prove I'm really from New York. But you look in this guy's face, and I take out a 60-year-old ride coupon and have it in my wallet. I told him, yeah, I'm hoping when they bring it back, they'll still honor it.
Yeah.
When you think about it, 90% of rides just go around in circles. What else can you do with them?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's the high speed circles. I mean,
I agree with you.
yeah, I'm just not a super fan of that. I'm also, not a huge fan of crazy roller coasters. I guess after working on Space Mountain and how many rides I took on that during the debug of it, that was my roller coaster quota for quite a few years.
Well, I was wondering if it's because you're turning 89 tomorrow that maybe you've had a change of thought. I mean, I don't dare ride on anything that I found very exciting to ride on as a kid. At turning 69 tomorrow, Bill, your birthday happens to fall on the birthday of my oldest friend who unfortunately passed away last year. He and I were born a day apart in Colorado Springs. So he would also be 69 on Tuesday, the 26th. But you said what, 93 on?
Tuesday's the 27th. I think I heard Barron say something about 89 and goodbye. Was that what he was saying?
You didn't hear him at the end there. Then he upped it to 93 at the end of his little talk there.
Yeah, so we're gonna miss
You're saying
Barry.
69,
Yeah.
you're saying 69 is a dangerous age. 69 is a dangerous age, you're saying?
Yeah, 69. You know, when I hit 68 a year ago, it was like, I'm not liking this. You know, 67 wasn't bad. I could tolerate it. 68, I wasn't too sure. I'm not sure about 69 tomorrow.
Wait do you see how fast the next 10 years are going to go? It goes even faster.
Well, yes. I don't know. They seem to go long sometimes. Uh, but anyhow, I was just wondering if, if youth had fallen by and that's why
No,
you
no,
didn't want to, you don't ride those things anymore. Like I wouldn't even dare get on any of these twirly roller coaster spinny rides these days just because they'd make me sick.
no. Well, next time we go to Disneyland, you'll happily find me on the Matterhorn or Big Thunder or things like that.
Well, okay, okay.
Yeah, but
My,
I could go in I could go in a small world ride and get seasick.
my daughter has ridden some of the roller coasters at Knott's Berry Farm, and she said what the worst they can do is they don't have any place for you to put your feet. Your feet are just hanging down, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And she says they're really hard to ride because you're moving all over and you don't have any way to steady yourself.
No,
How
no.
about the coaster? How about the coasters that go backwards? Then you don't even get any head support. They were never
Yeah.
designed to be run
I'm
backwards.
not sure. I mean, some of them probably do go back. I don't get on those. I'm with you guys. I don't do things like that. I've never been able to do them. I just simply I avoid that. But Knott's Berry Farm now has a lot of really gut wrenching roller coasters.
We
Well, you
live
won't
right
see me
near
there.
Magic Mountain, which is supposed to be the roller coaster capital of the world, and we
Yeah.
go there often. Well, let's continue with Expo. So I'm sitting here firmly in my non-moving chair. So you have Swan Lake in the background. You have Switzerland with the giant windmobile that spun around. Austria off to the right, and all the swans were imported and trained to live there in the island. Over to the plaza, the train station in the background and the Expo 67 symbol. This whole area is getting
I think that
renovated
thing's
for,
still there.
what's that?
I think that thing's still there today.
Yeah, it is. I was just saying this whole area is finally getting renovated. It had been allowed to totally decay, become absolutely unsafe to go in there, and now they're finally doing some work to revive it and make it usable space again.
It looked like there was already some rust on that railing at the bottom.
Yes, it does. On
Yes.
some of these things you can see if we zoom in,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like the New York State Pavilion had rust on it for the first season up on the railings of the tower. You build this stuff really cheap and you're rushing to get it done and probably needed 2 coats of paint and you only had time for one and yeah, I mean it's only 6 months old and it's rusting away. Who knows how early, when I said 6 months old, I don't know when this was built, but somewhere during the cycle, it can't be more than a year old. So it's not doing well. But this looked like it was a pretty nice day out here. This is that same area, the Plaza, I'll get it wrong, the Plaza of Nations. I won't try it in French. Carol will cringe if I do it. But I happen to really enjoy this picture. I just thought it was a beautiful blue day and all the colors against it. I got to throw this into my repertoire for my rotating wallpaper on my desktop. There's another view. Unlike the United Nations Pavilion, where they had all the ones that were members of the United Nations, these are just the countries that are participating in Expo. The torch that was lit at the beginning and then extinguished at the end of Expo, the Eternal Flame. I understand the base of this is still out there, but the top part mysteriously disappeared. We get over to Germany and their stretched roof. So they went with what was billed as a very innovative design. If you actually look at the 1933 Chicago World's Fair Transportation Pavilion, this was pretty much the same thing they did. They had pillars in 33 that held up a fabric roof. And you know, people made a big thing out about the Germany pavilion, but they seem to have forgotten the 33 World's Fair had done pretty much the same thing. This was used very successfully here and then became used for some of the Munich Olympics, the same sort of design. And we have a nice day. We're over near the USSR pavilion, looking across this, at the USA pavilion. The tower off to the right was a pre-existing building that's still there today with a carillon in it. And over to the left, you can see all the flags. We seem to be big on flags today. Those are the 50 flags of the United States, all standing out there.
Bill, that existing tower just reopened after some extensive renovations.
Yes, yeah. That was a pretty old tower by the time of Expo. I think it had already been there for a good 60, 70 years. So it's got to be 100 years old by now. And more flags, this time going down the side of the USSR. And speaking of that, you know, I always get a kick out of this. It looks so big and so massive and everything, right? This big metal, you know, hammer and sickle. Well, it turned out it was all made out of plywood and, you know, a steel framework with plywood on top of that. And then these were just panels that were glued on top of the plywood. But it certainly gives you.
But there's no rust on it.
What's that?
There's no rust on it.
Yeah, no, Russ. It was aluminum, I think. But you can see the size of it compared to the people down below. It was a very eye-catching, you know, symbol generating, you know, the might and power of the USSR. And then again, just across the channel, you talk about the Cold War. You know, the two nations facing off there and both saying, "We're big, we're better." After Expo 67 ended, almost all the communist pavilions were disassembled. They declined the invitation to stay for part of Man in His World, the successor, and it was taken apart and is now in a park in Montreal, in Moscow. And the bridge here, if you go there today, the cables are not on the bridge because they found out that the bridge was actually just as strong or possibly stronger without the cables because it was able to move a bit better with the wind and not have the restrictions that they put on it. The USA, the giant geodesic dome inside. Today, the dome is still there, but the acrylic skin is gone. They were closing up the entrance where the mini rail ran through it and managed to set it on fire, and the thing burned in a spectacular fire and is there today. So it's called the Biodome. You can go there. Carol and I went there. You mentioned Roger LaRoche. We went there, had a really nice day touring the grounds with Roger and got our pictures taken up at the top platform of the biosphere. It's kind of fun to go to. It's a nice exhibit, but you only want to go there in summer. I don't think it's open in winter.
Today would be a bad day.
Yeah. So there's the mini train going through the building. And down below, you had the Marine Guard standing down here and stylized American Eagle up here. This was a theater down in here. And then the people are beginning their ride up what was built as the world's longest escalator to work your way up to the top of the pavilion and then walk your way back down. And there was a article how NASA saved the United States Pavilion. Because they brought in all the space hardware, including prototypes of things that were going to be and real space capsules that had flown. And the rest of the pavilion, the U.S. went with a fairly soft sell approach compared to the USSR, where the USSR had, we'll see some pictures of oil wells and undersea drills and that sort of thing. The United States went with Marlon Brando pictures and Raggedy Ann and Andy dolls. But people were saying that was all kind of lackluster, but everybody had to go and see the NASA stuff. We got a view looking out through the dome. Some of the parachutes that were being used for the Apollo capsules coming back down. If you may remember, they were all done in a thing of 3, and they figured that any 2 of these parachutes could have held the weight of the capsule just fine, but let's put 3 in case anyone got fouled up in its lanyards or anything. And a really space flown Apollo capsule. Obviously, at this point in time, we had not landed on the moon, but this particular one was flown in orbit around around the Earth, and then returned to Earth, and it was all part of their learning experience on, is this thing going to work? Are people going to be safe? I know that there's another mission they're getting ready to launch, and there's giant concerns whether or not it's safe or not. I pray for the people on it. It's going to be. But back in this point in time, they flew several missions, first with unmanned capsules, then manned capsules before they sent somebody off to the moon. Let me go to the next batch here. So we're still in 1967. We're back at L'Orange. I mean, what's a World's Fair without a Ferris wheel? Since Ferris wheels were invented for a World's Fair. This tower up here, the spiral tower, was just taken down this past year. So it had lasted all these years at part of L'Orange, but for whatever reason, it decided it needed to be retired and taken down.
Bill, just for
Yeah.
a second, that's interesting. That Apollo capsule, I was just looking at some stuff here.
Yeah.
The first manned flight was in 68. So that had to have been one of the unmanned test
Right.
flights prior to Apollo 1, the Apollo 1, which was the one that burned on the launch pad. So that would have been the situation there. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, like I said, it was really cutting edge, state of the art, and everybody wanted to go see it. That it's your one and only chance to be that close to something that was going to take man to the moon. So at L'Orange, we could go and we have who's got a quarter? Do we want to go and try the game of darts? And they're certainly trying to get us in here. The trouble is, if you won one of these things, you had to carry it around Expo the entire rest of the day. For some of these games, I don't know how rigged they were because I don't have a lot of pictures of people carrying those things around to Expo. But again, if you zoom in on it, 2 and any red apple wins. So that sounds pretty easy, doesn't it? My brother Jim, who unfortunately is no longer with us, he was very, very good at darts, and he was a pool player. He spent a lot of time. Now I don't want to say drinking. He spent a lot of time in bars because he did a lot of playing pool. In fact, he almost went almost went pro on playing pool. But he also got very good at darts in between pool games. So if he had been up there, maybe he would have come home with a giant ape. But it looks like a very, shall we say, risky Ferris wheel because I don't know, they strapped in the seats or what, but that railing or whatever doesn't go very high up around it. I mean, if you remember the Ferris wheel in New York, that basically the entire cab was enclosed. This looks like if you stood up or did anything, you could end up taking a swan dive. Let's take a voyage to the moon. This was a super popular ride when they had the same ride at the 62 Seattle World's Fair, and that stayed there in Seattle for quite a while. So they built this one, and I just the faces and everything on these creatures up there. I don't know what they were expecting the moon was going to be inhabited by at that point in time, but you're going to see dragons and all sorts of things. But for 40 cents, you could go on in and typical carnival dark ride that you'd see all over the place, but people were eating it up. They were popular. You could come out here to the marina over way off to the side here. There's a little weather station, which had measuring equipment in that and gave the official weather reports to the command center. That was the GE sponsored command center. This particular one, I got a kick that looks like somebody sailed their Chinese junk all the way over and parked it here. So they made a big thing about how many boats that this could handle. And then they had to start making a big thing. You need a reservation because it turned out to be very, very popular as people decided they would go visit Montreal and go visit Expo. Hey, this is a great way of getting out of a hotel bill. I can stay overnight on the boat. I'll just sail it in there. So they had, like I said, they put out ads at first, come and stay on your boat. And then they had to really reinforce the fact that we may not have space for you and do not just show up.
Yeah.
So the spiral, the observation car, 2 levels and take you up, got to the top, and it rotated both on the way up and the way down. So you got some very nice views of the grounds and the city. And there we see it going all the way up. They had bumper cars, so you could go in. A lot of the run was typical stuff that you could see in amusement parks all around the place, but that's what people wanted to see. It was fun. So go off and get in the bumper cars and smack into everybody. This is one, oh boy, if we had the time machine, just think how much fun we could have here bringing back all these official Expo 67 souvenirs, the things that are just the symbols, the utmost, the most wonderful souvenirs of Expo 67 you can never remember, like inflatable Donald Ducks, inflatable Mickey
Mickey Mouse.
Mouses, inflatable pink elephants. And when I first saw the slide, I said, "Oh wow, great souvenirs!" And when you go through it, you go, "A Winnie the Pooh?" You know, I mean, there's nothing in here to me that says Expo 67. Maybe off to the side here, a balloon or something. But I mean, again, Expo 67 souvenirs. I just got a kick out of the stuff they were selling. But it's nice and colorful in any particular thing. Off to the side, you could get a hat. Again, the Montreal, the Metro Express. The Fort Edmonton area, recreation of an old stockade, and you could go in there and have there was a mile-long type bar. You could get a haircut and shave, things that were done in towns out there in the
You notice this is just a couple years after New York Fair, and look how casual people were dressing already in that short period of time.
Yeah, when you see somebody like here dressed up nicely, you go, oh, okay, she must have come from New York. And then you see everybody else in jeans and shorts. Everything changed so rapidly,
That's
right
right.
in this one period of
You never
time.
saw a woman wearing pants in 1965.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, of course, everybody be going in their PJs.
Yeah.
Okay. That was August of 67. So we go up a little in September of 67. The French Pavilion, which is still there, is the casino.
It's still a pretty amazing building.
It is, and it's a nicely. I mean, you can't recognize when you go into it at all. I mean, they absolutely totally gutted it, but it's still, very very recognizable as a Expo 67 building. We were there about 5 years ago, and and again, you walk in the front door, it's like going to Wonderland. This isn't what I remember, but it was still really cool to be, for me at least. Wow, I'm touching something that was here, in 67. They had along the metro, the mini train rail, a number of emergency ladders that, God forbid, I don't know that they ever had to do an excavation of it, but if they did, you can see this is built into the leg of the pylon. And mention more of the spacecraft. They had all sorts of simulated astronauts, and he's got his little hammer and chisel, and he's getting ready to take a set of moon rock home with him. Over to Britain. This was remained when Man in His World, and this was taken out, and the flag of Montreal was put in its place the next year. And then again, Czechoslovakia, super popular pavilion, taken out with all the other communist nations. The stairway going up into it was an emergency exit, but it was left for whatever reason when they tore the whole pavilion down. They left the staircase up there, and you could go up, and there was a small platform. You could take pictures of things around you, but I never figured out why they left that one platform set of stairs to nowhere. Then we have the theme structures. We have Copernicus. We'll see him more coming up. No, as a matter of fact, there he is. So nice statue of him. And then we zoom in on it. You can see that the name is, the spelling is different than Copernicus the way I'm used to with a C, but little plaque on the side honoring him. Air Canada, based on a Leonardo da Vinci, an early design for a flying machine. And inside they would have displays on Air Canada, their route. And you could, of course, make a reservation for a flight at Air Canada and take brochures and schedules and things with you. I always just thought this was such a great design because it's absolutely silly. It serves no useful purpose whatsoever, but it's eye-catching. And to me, big square buildings like the main pavilion were really boring and everything. But I just love how totally inane and useless Expo designs can be.
That was another stairway to nowhere.
Yeah, yeah. Imagine if it was a long step off the end, huh?
Well, you go up there and
Anybody ever
take
climb it?
pictures.
Anybody ever climb it?
No, well, not that I know of. No, I've never seen anybody up on it. The Telephone Pavilion, Disney sponsored a 360-degree movie about Canada, which was a big thing. And when we were doing Epcot, we had the 360-degree theater set up for a stage at the studio for testing out the films, and we took out the old Canada film and watched it, which has now been revised and what they use down in Epcot. But it was kind of neat Disney still had all the reels and put it all up, and was fun to go see it.
Bill, when Epcot first opened, was the circular film shown in the Canada building the same as the one at Expo 67?
No, it was a very updated one.
Totally new.
Yeah, during the time between here and this, a whole bunch of Canada things had changed and things were new. So use some footage, but they shot a whole bunch of new footage for it. So when you wanted to show a skyline of a city, you wanted to be, something that was, not 15 years old at that point.
The telephone exhibit at Expo 86 in Vancouver, the building looked pretty much identical to this one. And, it had a circular, or what do you call it?
Circle vision.
Film, but I'm not sure.
It was this one
specifically for that fair.
Yeah, was this one really updated? It was not the same one as being shown at Epcot at that point in time, but they redid this film. They showed it. They used it at several World's Fairs. The 360 concept. So at Expo 86, Disney did redo this film, an updated version, which was sponsored again by a Telecom of Canada. So it was another telephone pavilion. I talk about how history repeats itself. A telephone pavilion with around 360 film. And 20 years later, or 21 years later, here's the or 20 years later, here's the same thing again. So we have Swan Lake with the fountains going full bore. When they put this together, they were hoping that they were going to be able to bolt it all together, and they found out they didn't have enough bolts in all of Canada, so they had to start welding pieces of it, and they found out they didn't have welders, so that it became a real last minute challenge to get the theme structures put together. The Kani Mavic, the inverted pyramid, you would go up in the center and you could either walk up or take a funicular railway, but you got a great view of the whole area from up there. The People Tree we'll see more of. I think we can tell what pavilion this is. So the People Tree mentioned in prior talks, they went all around Canada, took pictures of the average Canadian at home, work, play, that sort of thing, and put their pictures up on these panels. Down below, they also recorded people talking about their town, their village, their job. And if you stood underneath the People Tree, you'd hear the voices of Canadians, describing life. When they came back to do Man in His World, they realized they'd only signed contracts with the people to use their pictures for Expo 67, and they said they didn't know if they could find all the people and get new contracts done. So for Man in His World, this was just colored panels. They took the people out. I tried to find out if the original panels were saved anywhere, and nobody seems to have known where they've gone. Hopefully some museum has a big box full of these, but it was all redone because of legal considerations. Today, of course, if you do anything in public today, like when I do things for Disney, they have me sign a contract that my image can be used in any form, fashion, likeness of anything known today or may be known to exist in the future, of any technology who's not yet invented, which may be employed by the Walt Disney Company. I mean, you basically giving them everything, you know. The part is where the scary part is when they also say, we want your DNA sample and we will do anything we want with that. So lawyers today have changed a lot of things since '67. But if you go up to the top of the Caddy Mavic, as I said, you can get some nice views out across the site. The weather in this particular day looked to be just spectacular. The crowds look to be pretty good. A lot of people down here waiting to get their train ride, the mini rail. Walking across, and again, France.
What building is that where the yellow ramps are above it, that gray?
This
Train
was
station.
this was oh god, Pacific
Western
Northwest.
provinces.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. All right.
and they have real trees growing here. They imported them in, and they put dirt up here. The idea was that we have all this natural resources coming by our lumber and everything, and they had to put a sprinkler system and everything. But they were real live trees that they went down about this level. They didn't grow all the way up, but that was the impression they were trying to give.
I just hadn't noticed pictures of that before. I mean, as far as any individual pictures.
Yeah. And then down below, you could go and they had a whole bunch of things on timbering and lumbering displays and giant cross sections of trees to show how old they were and that sort of stuff. I think when they did Man in His World, I think these trees were taken out. I don't think that was part of the later life of that pavilion because they didn't want to care for them. Again, the people tree, you can start seeing if you zoom in on some of it. Pictures of, you know, people here and, you know, a little girl and family and everything. But it was a neat design. Some of it were just, you know, plain colored panels. But then again, down below, you know, this might be a recording of this little girl or somebody else. And just more views from the Caddy Mavic. The maple leaf flag was new, so that was getting a lot of attention and everything at that point in time. Just continuing to look across the site.
I'm sorry, why was the maple leaf flag new? What was it before?
What's that?
What was the Canadian flag before?
It was stylized after the British flag. It was a red, white, and blue
Oh,
design.
Union Jack.
Yeah, designed after that. I think
it had a Union Jack in the corner, kind of like
Yeah.
our Stars and
I think it was
Stripes,
a
the
red-
stars
red-
area.
I think it was a red
Interesting. I
flag.
don't think I ever knew that.
Yeah,
And so it was introduced in the mid 60s.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it was a red flag with a Union Jack up in the corner.
Wasn't there like a shield or something on it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of these, I'm not entirely sure which pavilions that they are. I have to go. I mean, if we zoom in here, is there enough verbiage up here? It's kind of blurry, of course. What I will do is I will post this picture, for example, online, and Roger LaRoche within 17 minutes will have identified it, and he'll know the name of the woman standing in the back. The guy is just
And
great at resource.
the designer who designed her outfit.
Yeah, and what she had in her purse. I mean, the guy, he's an absolute wonderful man. I mean, he's not a know-it-all sort of guy. He's not one of these guys that gets on, yeah, I know this and you don't. He is the biggest fountain of knowledge on Expo 67. There is a 15-year-old, I think, and he's just a super, super nice guy.
His research is astounding.
It is. He really, he's just astonishing on it. And like I said, he was a huge help to me in getting my book converted into French. I cannot say enough good things about Roger. And he's, like I said, very pleasant. Carol and I spent the day with him, and really just a great guy. If you're going up to Montreal, I'm sure I can put you in touch with him, and he gives a great tour. So some kind of weird artwork outside the Britain Pavilion, and some different artwork inside.
Now, this sculpture is now in Calgary.
Yes, it's
And
very,
you know, I had when I first started flying, I used to have Calgary layovers all the time, especially during the winter because you know how cold it gets up there. We drove by this thing, I mean, dozens and dozens of times in a park, and I never realized its association till like 30 years later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't it something? It's pretty large too, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And over, I believe this is now Czechoslovakia. They had a huge thing on glass. I have never been to Czechoslovakia. Would like to go, but I gather, at least at this point in time, they were very well known for being a glass manufacturing hub. So they had this display, and they had others. Again, a glass waterfall. All she looks like it's chilly. So it's September. We're getting near the end of the fair type, but again, these are all things of glass that were there in fountain down below, and they look like water, but different colors of
Bill,
glass.
if you go, don't get to the Czech Republic. Don't get caught up in taking a tour of one of the glass factories, because it's still a very popular item. And of course, you know, they try to press you into buying all this stuff after you go through the tour.
You don't think the tour is worth it?
I didn't think so.
Oh, so I love factory tours, and you know, it's always amazing to me how commonplace things are actually made. But we'll consider it. Not quite sure where this statue is.
So Bill, are you a fan of how it's made?
Oh yeah,
series?
yeah.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
The thing that the factory tour that amazed me the most, I think, was when we went to pretzel factory in Pennsylvania, and I love pretzel sticks. I'll just sit there eating pretzel sticks, and they show, you know, this conveyor belt going through the oven, and it never stopped. I mean, the oven was so big and so long that the raw dough could go on one side, and it went through at a pretty good clip, and came out as a baked pretzel on the other side, and there were all sorts of, on the steel beams all around the factory. There were all sorts of pretzels up on the the beams. As they went through, they would fly off with the velocity of the thing. And the tour guy said, yeah, once a year we shut the place down and go through and, you know, clean up all the pretzels and dust and everything up there. But I always thought they would go into an oven, bake, and then come on out. No, they just flew through that oven really, really fast, and you know, that it worked. But I think
Was that the Anderson? Was that the Anderson Pretzel Bakery?
what's that?
Was that the Anderson Pretzel Bakery?
I don't remember which one we went through, to be honest with you, or whether it was Hanover pretzels or Snyder pretzels, or, you know, but it was just, you know, going in there. Of course, on the way out, they sell you stuff. So we got a big box of pretzels.
Of
So,
course.
Interesting fact, in the late 60s or early 70s, when Zenith Electronics and Roland division expanded their color picture tube production, they built in a closed bakery because that was the size of the facility they needed to build the ovens that bake picture tubes.
oh, really? Yeah, I don't know much about how they're made, but I never thought about baking them. Yeah. This picture, I think this is the same set of statues that Randy saw in Calgary. Again, gives you an idea how big they are. And I believe this is Australia that we're off to now. Habitat 67. It's getting winter. The trees have already lost their leaves and all.
Did you ever go inside there?
Oh yeah, they gave a tour. There was one pavilion. Oh, Brock put up the Canadian flag behind us.
Yeah, just I'll move it. I'll move out of the way so everybody can see it. That's the old Canadian flag.
Right.
And I guess
Thank you.
that shield must contain what, the flags of the individual provinces, maybe.
I think it had to do with the provinces. Yeah, I think that was their flags.
Yeah, I did a
That's
quick
never the
search.
Great Britain flag. Looks
What's
like
that?
Great Britain.
Yeah.
Well, the upper part is, but Great Britain had just the Union Jack, the whole thing.
Yeah, so they were part of the Commonwealth, and a lot of the Commonwealth flags did use the Union Jack. I know Jamaica and some others did.
Australia, I think, did too, didn't they, for a while?
What's that?
Australia, I think, also
Yeah.
did for,
It did.
yeah.
Yes, going back to Habitat, there was one of the cubes that was used for tours, and it was an extra admission. I think you paid 50 cents or something like that, and you went in, and they gave tours of it, and the habitat was being lived in by regular people at that point in time. And I made mention in another talk about one woman who worked there and somebody who lived there rather, and somebody knocked at the door that I only have a certain amount of time before my flight. I just can't wait on the line. Can I look at your place? Yeah.
You notice that they're cantilevered out, the cubes with no supports underneath them?
Yeah, it's all done with steel beams, just holding it up in the air. It's very, very great in a design. These were all modular things built in a factory, and then just like the contemporary resort at Florida, which I wonder if they took out the concept of doing this. Built in a factory, you can see the crane and everything. They would show you how they were made, and then just slide them into place.
Can't imagine
Now
how the
I-
elevator goes through there. How's the
Now I'm
elevator go?
wondering, what's that tube-shaped thing on the back?
What's that?
The tube-shaped part on the back,
Tube-shaped parts on the back.
on the right.
The upper right?
The top
Oh,
right.
it's so what you call a screen, a sunscreen. You have a patio up here, and this was something for wind up here. When they first built this, the elevators only stopped, I think, on the first, third, and fifth floors because they were trying to encourage people to, use the stairs and commingle and get familiar with each other. In later years, I believe now they stop on every floor. The whole concept with this, you could buy a 1 cube area, you could buy 2 cubes. If you were really wealthy, you could buy 3 cubes. Some of them were one level, some of them they had stairwells that connected the 1 cube to the one above it. So there were all sorts of this was a whole thing that they did to try to show a concept that we could build a city of all sorts of shapes and sizes. This was about a third of the size that they originally were planning to build for Montreal, but they just ran out of money and realized they couldn't finish it in time. In there, they had a model. They were going to build a giant one of these in Brasilia and other places, but this is the only one that they ever ended up building. Swan Lake.
I read somewhere years ago that once the habitat was finished, they would have to sell, I think it was like each artist, they'd have to get $104,000 average for each residence to break even, which back then was a fortune.
Yeah, that's
$4,000 in the mid-60s, you could buy a Beverly Hills home for that.
Yeah, that's happened in a couple situations where the prototype ends up being so expensive. When Disney had the Monsanto House of the Future, that was great. It was so modern and everything. But when people penciled out what it would take to actually build those things by any volume, Disney could afford to build it, but you couldn't afford to do it. In some other World's Fairs, they have the same thing, the prototype houses, and when you start seeing how expensive it would be to actually buy it, you just couldn't do it.
How much higher were they planning to build it? Were they planning to go higher than that?
No, this was always planned to be about this height, but about 3 times as long. So all this empty area here was all supposed to be filled at that point in time.
The very original plan, it was quite different because it was like a giant A-frame structure with the units kind of resting on that.
Yeah. Again, you get into what you can do and what you can afford.
Right.
So Thailand all lit up nice at night. Another night view. Those street lights are really, really great. Again, the lights in a tube, it's shining up, bouncing off this platter here and going back down to the ground. So I still think somebody can make a fortune if you made a small table lamp and looked like this and sold it as a Expo 67 table lamp. I have no mechanical skills, but I keep thinking, I wonder what you could do with a 3D printer these days.
Yeah, I've seen a couple table lamps or desk lamps that kind of sort of resemble that, but not close enough, and they're also very expensive.
Yeah, the gray ones that have the top at kind of about a 10-degree angle or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. But I just think if you did it this way and made it the Expo 67 commemorative edition or something. So maybe in my spare time, I'll get to that.
I'll be your first customer.
Great. Oh, gotta rest those feet. We're outside Israel, and again, it's getting winter. The coats are coming out, and people are keeping their hands in their pockets to stay warm.
Bill, just quickly on the Canadian flag here, I've got another one behind me. This is the actual one that was the last one before they changed over, and that's a coat of arms. And the same thing with the previous one, but it was an older version of the coat of arms. Then this one was from like 1927 to till they made the change.
Oh, okay.
So that's
You're
that's
saying
what that
the one
was.
flag has the one flag has a Union Jack and the coat of arms on it? That's one
Yeah,
flag?
it has a Union Jack, like where we would have our stars for the Stars and Stripes, and then they had the coat of arms inside the red field. That was their
Oh,
flag,
okay.
just like
So that's
that.
one large flag, okay.
One large flag, that's the whole flag. Yeah, but there was an older coat of arms on the flag I originally found, which it was the first flag, but it was used more for the naval ships. Anyway, sorry about interrupting.
No, that's fine. Thank you. So off we go to Iran. Persian carpets all rolled up.
Were those done with tile or were
Yeah,
they
these are
painted?
tile, very nicely done mosaics, and they
Yeah,
if you
wow.
zoom in on them. I've got some, not in this shot, but I've got some very close pictures of the tile work. This is all handmade tiles and all put together. In later years, they ended up the tiles, as you can imagine, over time started having some issues. But the biggest issue was a new Iranian government came in, and oh, this was too ornate. We need to have everything stark. So they actually painted these suckers over, I think, on
Oh,
orange sort of color. And then they redid them 1 year in a black and white, not sorry, blue and white sort of checkerboard pattern that was sort of strange. So again, these were just beautifully all hand done, and you can see that they're different. This one repeats here, but this one's different than this one, which is different than this one. So again, I'll zoom in one more time. All this all done by hand, and done in Iran, brought over here and assembled.
wow.
You're saying those cables did not support the bridge, they were just decorative?
They were thought at that point in time they needed it to support it, and they found out in a rehab that the bridge actually does better, has less tension on it, which less twisting and everything. So that the
But
cable bridge is
it
still there,
looks like a cable stayed bridge though, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
but they're
I
not
can't
there.
believe you can pull off those cables and it's not going to collapse.
Well, plus the cables add so much to the appearance of the
Yeah,
of the
well,
bridge.
I can safely say we walked across the bridge 5 years ago and it did not fall into the river, and the cables are
Well,
gone.
without the cables, you don't need the towers on it either.
Yeah, but the towers, leaves you, takes you money if you take the towers down. You leave them up there, it costs nothing. That's what they decided in a rehab. It was going to be expensive to put them in, and do we really need them? Nope, we don't. And so far, it's been right. Who knows? Maybe one day they'll be wrong.
Boy,
But
that's hard to believe.
yeah, back to the Britain Pavilion. This one, I'm not sure where she is, but she's entertaining at some sort of dinner club here.
I'm gonna guess it's the Soviet Pavilion restaurant.
This one?
Yeah, that's my guess.
Why
Oh.
would you guess that?
Those giant curtains in the background. I definitely could be wrong. I mean, she kind of looks like she could be, I don't know, Filipino or Filipina.
Yeah.
What is that instrument he's playing? That big triangular wooden instrument?
That is a Russian instrument. I only know that because I saw it
Yeah,
on something we saw on YouTube with a guy that brought in some guest players for a concert he was doing, and they had these Russian
bal-
players, and the guy had this.
balalaikas or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called, but they were standing, so he had the one corner on the floor and holding it like a guitar, and it's kind of played like a guitar, but it's got that giant triangular bass. So I think you might be right, Randy, as far as that being in Russia, because that I think is a Russian instrument.
And apparently they had Mr. T playing the accordion too.
Yeah, he's an accordion player over here.
Pity the fool.
Yeah, definitely a balalaika.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Look at the little trays of flowers too.
Yeah, little
shot.
things there. Too bad we can't see what's on the table. Maybe we could say, what they were eating. We know for sure. All these granite blocks kids used to like to climb up on are scary. this building is still there today. It's got a totally different facade, but it's used as a warehouse and auxiliary a building for the French the former French pavilion, which is now the casino.
So Bill, it's not at all part of the casino as far as visitors being able to go into it.
No, no, it's totally off limits. But it's still there and connected, but it's used for storage.
It looks so horrible in that the gold color glass they use now.
Yes. Yeah.
It's really chintzy.
Yeah. That why they make some of the changes. If you got to do it, I'd keep it this way. But yeah, why they did it, I don't know. And the United Nations again. You could go in there as a stamp collector. You could go in and buy United Nations stamps, which I had gotten hooked on, so I
Yeah.
had to go and pick up some of those.
They take all those flags down at night.
What's it? No, I don't know if
Did they
took
take
it
them all
at
down
night.
at night?
I don't recall, to be honest with you, and that's something I paid
That'd be a
attention
lot of
to.
work.
Yeah. And over again, just the very edge of Jamaica over here. One of the nice view of how the lights worked, again, bouncing up and reflecting off.
In that little sheltered area,
I'm not
right in
sure.
the middle of the picture, became a restaurant eventually because very shortly after opening, I believe, because or maybe I'm thinking of a different location because initially they ran out of dining.
Right.
People were waiting hours in line to get a hamburger, and they threw up other restaurants here and there. Thought this was one of them where they turned this into a restaurant. I could be
Could
wrong.
be. This slide was processed in June, so I'm not sure
so
when
yeah,
it was actually taken.
Yeah, so it could have been taken at the very beginning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Randy, I'd be careful of the use of words that you use there.
Yeah.
They threw up a bunch of restaurants. So the food obviously wasn't very good.
Yeah, the food was bad.
And it looks like a color TV truck in the middle.
Yeah,
It
there's
does.
a cable color TV truck.
Oh yeah,
here.
it says TV on it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I went to some place that was on vacation one time, and it was a gas station that had a snack bar next to it. And it said, "Come on in and get gas," and I was like, weird combination. See a camera. My son was just talking yesterday about a gas station that had food in it. But yeah, there's a camera up here. It looks like it's got a cover on it, but it's up here, and it looks like a microwave dish or something up here. So, but yeah, remote broadcast fan.
And they apparently also have a TV antenna on the top so they can verify what's being broadcast.
Yeah, you see around a lot of the pavilions in here. They had a small TV antenna up at the roofs of some of the buildings, so they could watch TV in their VIP lounges. I guess they didn't have any cable TV. Mention again the soft side of pavilions. The United States did all sorts of things with quilts and stuff like that. Again, some pop art thing of USA model, but the three Apollo parachutes and one of the spacecrafts hanging there. Andy Warhol. I'm not sure if he did this or it's just Andy Warhol type design, but again, this was the days of swinging 60s and pop art and all these eye-catching things. Looking down the side of Iran. I forget the name of this sculpture offhand, but there's France in the background again. Now, again, this was processed in June, but it was probably taken very early on because dressed very warmly and no leaves on the trees. So you're possibly right that that was a area that was quickly thrown together, not thrown up, but thrown together for a restaurant. Now, this one is a kind of interesting one. This name here is a sculpture of Walking Woman by an artist named Michael Snow. And it's very clever. If you look at the, matter of fact, this one I did the colors a little bit on it. It looks like the metal was carved out of here and she's just walking away. So he did this motif in a number of different pieces, and he became kind of famous for this design and this concept. But this was, and this one still exists in a museum. I don't recall where the museum is, but I thought this was very clever. That makes it look like she just popped out of that giant block of metal and is heading off on her own. So that a design I found particularly intriguing, appealing, certainly different. I thought he was being very clever. This one I do not know if anybody is a real artist. I don't think we can see much on the little signage here. No, but again, I don't know a lot about art. I don't know what the artist is saying here, but I'm glad they're not my neighbor. This, I believe, is in the Czechoslovakia pavilion, if I remember correctly. Very popular restaurant, very hard to get into in some very long lines, but a nice view outside. Didn't look like it was a nice day to be outside, so not too many people out there. Okay.
Yeah, and ashtray at every table.
Oh yeah, absolutely mandatory back then. So July 67, somebody's gone up the steps, mentioned, it looks like the entrance of the pavilion, but it's not, just the bandstand for the mariachis who are not playing that night. All sorts of pavilions lit up nicely at night. Cosmos Walk, the mini rail went over the bridge over here in the center, and you can just see how crowded the site could get at some points in time. Just absolutely packed with people on a beautiful summer day.
You could also see the line for the Soviet pavilion.
Yes, yeah, all the way down here in
way
the back.
behind the building.
Yeah, yeah. For those that might have a smaller monitor. Good point. Thank you, Randy. All along here, all waiting to get in. So they're going to be coming along here and going. The entrance is over here, so they got quite a wait in front of them. Metro Express. Now I have to jump into another folder. So Calder's giant mobile of man, still on site in a new location, but it's still there. Built in, I think it was Switzerland, and brought over and assembled on site. When I show some of these pictures, people go, "Oh my goodness, how Montreal has changed." You know, so many more buildings and things that are part of the skyline and that. More habitat. You can see again railings and covering up here protect you as you're walking along to your building. That the winds can come through here pretty good during winter off the St. Lawrence River. So having this up there and keeping you with some sort of protection, there's another version down below, is going to be welcome. But on a nice day, you could sit out on your patio and put your umbrella up and enjoy yourself. Planters and greenery and trees, and we can peek inside the windows here. Man in the community, kind of got the irony that this was about how man needs to live in better harmony with the land around him. So let's do that by building a pavilion, by cutting down a whole bunch of trees and making a big wood building. So we have something with some modern looking curtains here inside their unit. It was just little things when you look around. You can see that orange was a big color to have and furnish your unit with in the 1960s. I hope I'm not upsetting anybody that's sitting there on an orange couch watching the talk.
My chair is kind of not quite orange, but
I actually had an orange couch in the 1970s. I had one.
I say that the guy that owns the place has an orange shirt on too. See him there above that chair.
Yeah, he does.
I'm not sure that's what we're looking at. It's something.
What is that then?
I don't know, because you get the reflection here bouncing off. And
I think it's off to the very
I think
left
it's
of the frame. Yeah, see.
I think it's
Oh yeah, that's
this umbrella here.
I think he's outside there and it's a reflection. Because look,
Yeah.
there's a little bit of orange right here.
Yeah.
yeah. Back out and see if we can see him. If that's not the edge of the picture.
No, it's no.
Oops.
This is maybe it's like
No,
these.
it's the edge of the picture. We can't
That's
see
the
it.
edge of the
Okay.
picture, yeah.
Yeah,
But again-
also, those orange tones and all are making a comeback.
Everything's making a comeback, right?
Yeah.
over to the
Not the
right,
leisure
people
suits.
dressed up
Oh,
nicely.
no. Our
and then
nehru
nobody see it.
jackets.
Yeah.
I forget the name of this one off the top of my head. Netherlands? No, this wasn't Netherlands. I'm trying to remember where this one was. Was the
This is
back
over on,
Yeah, it's all wood.
it's near where Habitat was located on,
Yeah.
can't think of the name of that peninsula.
right. All this was used. If you want to see a very, very bizarre movie, Robert Altman did one, and what was the name of it? God, it's on my site. I just lost the thing. Paul Newman's in it, and it's the world has gone wacky and everything is frozen over, and they shot all sorts of the movie there on the Expo site years later, and it's just a very, very bizarre film. But all this was still standing, and that particular year when they went to shoot it, they didn't have all the snow that they wanted, so they had a scene where they go by the Expo Express, and that still had the Expo 67 logo on the front, and they had to take fake snow and spray it across the train so you didn't see the logo. But they're saying it was very, very cold, but they just didn't get a lot of snow.
Was that Quintet, the movie?
Quintet, that's it. Yes, thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem.
I don't recall the name of this piece. I think it just says stay off the grass down here below. Let's see. Grand Construction, the name of the company that, okay, there, Grand Construction by Volton. This particular piece of sculpture was still on site when Carol and I were there 5 years ago, but no longer on exhibit. It was lying in its side, surrounded by a chain link fence. So things, you know, for whatever reason, have been taken down, moved, or whatever, and hopefully somebody comes up with the money to put it back. But it was still
Or just
lying.
rusted apart and fell over.
Yeah,
It's all rusty.
That was probably made with steel that was intended to
Oh, yeah.
rust.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you're right. Yeah.
They made a big thing for a while. New York State went on a whole big thing that they were putting things on the side of the road, the barriers to keep you from driving off the road, that they were put in and intended to rust. And they had this special steel design that once the rust would form, it would seal itself over, and the rust would be a permanent barrier. And they found out about 30 years later, good theory, but it rusted away.
That was
Doesn't work,
called
yeah.
Core 10 steel. Remember that? Core 10 steel?
Yeah, that's what it
Oh,
was. Core
yeah.
10. Yeah.
Yeah, the rust gave it a barrier to prevent future corrosion.
Yeah.
Hey, Bill, could you go back one again for a second? See that off to the right? No, not that one. The next, go next. Yeah. Off to the right of those tower-like things, that structure that's of the same material almost looks like the Nautilus from
Yeah.
20,000 Leagues, or like part of
Oh,
it.
yeah. Yeah.
See that? It
Yeah.
has a little bit of a. It's not, but I mean, when you first looked at it, I thought, is that the Nautilus there?
Yeah, I'm not sure this was part of the UK or the Britain Pavilion. I'm not quite sure what it was. Boy, if you walk in there, I'd hate to have some drinks and walk into this hallway and try to find your way out.
Talk about throwing up.
Yeah, it's pop art, op art. I mean, it was real big at that point in time. And there's the mini rail going around.
Empty.
And you had all sorts of ways you could get around. You could go around in a gondola, but this guy cheated. It's a motorized gondola. I mean, if I go on a gondola, I want a guy with a pole pushing it, you know, I mean, not just somebody zipping around in a boat like this, but they had all
There's
sorts
too
of
much current. You're in
boats
the
you could
St.
rent.
Lawrence Seaway, too much current.
Yeah, well, again, the guys in Venice, they do it. I want authenticity. This particular one is inside the Ontario Pavilion. I just enjoyed this one, this little thing about the children growing up in Ontario and, you know, having fun and everything. But I thought it was a cute little set of dolls that was part of the exhibit. Back to another Kitty Mavic view. There's one coming up in this scene, view later on. If I get there today, we can see one of the pop-up restaurants that we were talking about, things they threw together real quick. Looking down, again, all part of the Canadian Pavilion. They had a small theater in here, and a film with a relaxing motif that you could come in and get away from the hustle and bustle of the rest of Expo. You can see outside the St. Lawrence River has a pretty good current to it. And again, which amazes me that they were able to build this thing by dumping all the dirt in there and not having the river just immediately carry it downstream. The Caddy Mavic, you could take the stairway up, or you could take the funicular. The funicular is not air conditioned, so it was not a good way to do it in summer. But up top, you get a really nice view. A lot of these sculptures were animated, so the dials are turning, the eyes are opening of some of them, and a number of them. I saw this particular group, somebody has them and is restoring them. This is another sculpture down below. Again, different parts it would work. So this conveyor would go around and around and around. I don't.
It must have been a one-way staircase because they were all going up. Nobody was coming down.
Yeah, there was another staircase on the other side that was down. Good catch. So one up, one down, and the finish.
There's so many people at the top rail, you couldn't get off the stairs.
Yeah, I imagine there was probably an issue that they tell people to move down. You wonder if there was something in particular going on down below, whether it was the Mountie riding his horse through or something that everybody had to stand there and see.
Queen Elizabeth's visit.
What's that?
Queen Elizabeth's visit.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah,
it's
could
a
have been
real
anything.
bottleneck.
So the mini rail would go through these fountains, going through in later years, and the track was taken out. The fountains still ran. They don't anymore. Here's the pavilion with the trees, poking up through the roof.
And Quebec's invisible railing.
Yes.
It always, I mean, you can see a little bit of it here. It amazes me in some pictures you cannot see anything.
Oh yeah, glass panels.
Yeah.
Or acrylic or whatever they were.
Yeah, they were
Must have someone out there washing them consistently.
Yeah, made it look like you could walk right off the bridge into the water, doesn't it? And we're inside, I forget which one of the Canadian pavilions this is. I think it's Ontario. Ooh, pop art again, right? You can see some of down below.
I wonder if these were moving.
I don't know if they moved or not, but yeah, the continued economic growth of Ontario is represented by the volume of goods and services. So, woo!
I almost fell off my chair.
Yeah, you walk in there, and this remind me of an episode of Get Smart with what's called Larry Storch, the Groovy Guru, where he's trying to brainwash Max, and they had all this op art stuff going on. Crazy stuff back then.
Is he still alive?
No, he died about a year ago.
He was well into his 90s, I believe.
Yeah, he was around, and he was still doing conventions and that. And he had a situation came up where he still had his Corporal Rock hat from F Troop, and somebody stole it from him at some convention. And there was this big fan outrage about, whoever has it, send it back. And I think he did get it back anonymously. But yeah, he still had his hat from F Troop and would go around. He said he was very, very active up until like the last 2 months of his life. That he was a real firecracker and just kept going. So a nice view of the USA. And we hop all over. Sometimes these things are not any particular order, so we're off at Laron. Not the most elegant of lights, but it kept it lit up at night. Speakers up above. Part of the existing grounds, they had quite a bit of artwork and sculptures that were scattered around the grounds. I think Expo 67 probably had the largest collection of artwork on the grounds of any World's Fair. So they had a large catalog that you could buy, and well over 200 pieces of art scattered around the grounds. And we get back into the USA. All sorts of things at different levels. Escalators this way, escalators that way, mini train going that way. And I always get a kick. You go through the bright, happy, everything's nice and colorful, and you go over to the USSR, Every single picture of Lenin I have seen at every single pavilion that the USSR ever built. The guy looked like, hey, come over here. I want to kick your ass.
Yeah.
Everyone, the guy must have smiled at some point in his life. He must have, like, hey, I got rid of the czar. Today was a good day. Take my picture. But I mean, every single representation of him, and going back to Expo 58, Expo 86, everything. He's just mean, nasty. So
That's
yeah.
where Robert Moses got it from.
What's that?
I said that's where Robert Moses got it from.
I've actually seen pictures of
Yeah, he
Robert
never
Moses
smiled either.
smiling, basically
They're rare.
a check, But down below, if you don't know what that is a representation of the power grid of the USSR, and that's showing you all of how their industrial might is all hooked together through a section of hydroelectric, coal-powered, and nuclear-powered plants. I mean, intuitively obvious, right? I mean, doesn't that just say power plants to you? But that's
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And as I said, they went on a heavy approach. We can crack your oil and make a refinery and turn out gasoline and benzene and turpentine better than anybody else you've ever met. So they had all sorts of displays like this. Weird. Again, I think the U.S. soft cell approach was a nicer one myself. It was a very impressive building, and you had all the they had their Russian space program stuff hanging overhead too. But all sorts of things, how they were going to mine manganese modules off the ocean floor, stuff like that. Down below this curving area here is called Expo Services. Again, if you had a small gift shop and you couldn't afford your own building, or if you wanted to have a hamburger stand or something, you could go and be part of Expo Services. I think they had Expo Services A through F. I don't think there was a G. I think F was the highest I remember.
Yeah, I think it's F. Yeah.
Yeah. And then scattered around, and then again, all sorts of different things. Over the years, they would change as people came and went. Well, slightly better day, not as many people on Cosmos Walk. You can see here the erosion that happened. That this site was built so quickly that they came and they put all sorts of grass and everything down. But it just, as soon as it would rain and everything, some of these things would just slip and slide into the river. So I know they did a lot of compaction of the site, but you can just imagine they were probably dealing with erosion, on and on spot fixes and repairs. Back to the USSR again, spacecraft on display. Big stained glass a panel over here that was nice and colorful. But here's our power plant representation. Lots of people online. This, if I remember right, was Tunisia. I think it was Tunisia. The mosaic tile floor. And just big tent area over here. One of the things added in for quick restaurant. One of the vaporettos going down the canal. Kaleidoscope in the background. I think this is in Czechoslovakia, and it's more glass sculpture going up on this pylon. And here is, again, the artwork we saw earlier, but a different view of it. Over here, again, the things that were added in real quickly. This is Kodak in here. And this particular tent was put up by Steinberg grocery stores. When they realized there was not enough food and everything, they made an urgent appeal who could come and participate. So Steinberg was a large chain of grocery stores in Canada. The head of it was a friend of one of the people that was one of the backers of Expo. And they said, yeah, we'll come and put something together real quick. You're not going to get any gourmet meals, but if you want hot dogs and hamburgers and, French fries and that sort of thing. But you can go on other sets of pictures and see this area is totally empty. And all of a sudden, this pops up about 6 weeks into Expo as they were trying to deal with the lack of food. Now,
Yeah, that's their version of the brass rail.
Yes, yeah. But look at this
Yeah,
line
this-
here, for example. You can see how popular things are. This is everybody going into a Kodak. And this is not a big pavilion at all. This is Kodak of Canada, which is a subsidiary of Eastman Kodak. But you would come in here and they would teach you how to use your camera. They would be happy to sell you film, and they would be happy to take pictures of you. But they didn't have any giant displays, and they weren't giving away free film like they had done at the, say, the 39 World's Fair. But all these people, there was, what am I going to go see? Well, I'll get online. I'll go see this one. Right next to it was the Canadian National Pavilion that had a huge line. And at times, Cuba was right over here. At times, this area became total gridlock as everybody was trying to get into those pavilions. Go to the
You
next.
know, you made a very interesting comment there, Bill, regarding the little pavilion there, and that was most people who have attended these things or look at these things on the surface only see the wonderment of the fair. You know, they go, they attend, they eat the food, they ride the rides, they think how wonderful it is. They don't see the politics behind the fair, and that this is certainly a story of the politics about the fair. You know, a happening that occurred with regard to this particular incident. You know, and it's most people don't see this. They only see the wonderment and the glory and the glitter. You know, they don't see the politics like this. So it's very interesting.
Well, the politics, it's funny you mentioned that with a shot of Cuba here, because the United States made a subtle inference that you shouldn't go to the Cuban pavilion because we were doing the Cuban blockade. We had just recently had the Cuban Missile Crisis. Cuba was bad, bad, bad. So, all sorts of American politicians would hint you shouldn't go there. You can imagine as an American teenager, where did I make a beeline to, right? I had to go see the forbidden fruit. But and it was a very strange pavilion. I mean, everything in there was about how great the Cuban system is and how the United States has been so mean and nasty to us, and Fidel is saving us from the Batista days and everything else. It was a very talk about heavy-handed. The Cuban pavilion made the USSR pavilion look like a soft plush toy. I mean, it was a very in your face, we're better and you better get used to it sort of thing. Was just very.
Let me then rephrase this a little bit. Maybe politics was the wrong word, but because I'm not referring to governmental politics.
Okay.
I'm talking about the internal business of the fair and how the fair is conducted and the daily politics that go on within the organizational structure of the fair, who's coming in, who's not coming in, what it costs, what it requires, somebody wanting to come in at the last minute like this, and how the fair committee, adapts to them.
It's more logistics. Yeah.
More the logistics of it. Yeah, I guess that's a better word, but still, in a sense, the maybe what's another word I could use for politics, but still, somebody wanting to come and participate at a last minute because, I think I ought to want to get in here and you understand what I'm getting at. It's the back workings of the daily organization of the fair that most fair goers don't see at all. They, like I said, they just see the wonderment.
Yeah, there's a really great book called Hi Ho Off to the Fair about trying to get nations to participate in the 64 World's Fair. The guy that wrote it was in charge of trying to get the South American countries to participate. And he went all about how you'd go down, you'd meet with people, they'd be all set to go, and then they'd have a revolution, and the next guy would say, go to hell. So they went, and it's like I said, a really fascinating book, and maybe ABE Books has that. It's really great. But for Expo 67, they did have some of what you're talking about, last minute stuff. They wanted to have all the Canadian provinces represented, and they made a real big pitch. Going Canada's got to be at the World's Fair. Well, the Yukon said we just can't afford it. We don't have anything. We just can't build these things like Ontario or Quebec or some of the others are doing. Well, at the very, very last minute, they said, hey, we don't want to be left out on this. So they had one of the smallest pavilions ever, and was just crammed into one of those Expo services area. near the base of the Labyrinth building, the film building. So very, very last minute addition. And again, by this point in time, people are like, well, you said you didn't want to be here. We don't want you here. No, no, you got to let us in. So yeah, the internal workings of things became a challenge. Now, one of the things I get a kick out of is and all the infrastructure, and I mentioned things like choke point and everything. The talks I was giving this past 2 weeks was talking about how Disney would put Barker birds outside the tiki birds and outside the Caribbean and get everybody interested. But everybody was so interested in the Barker birds that the crowds filled up those areas and they had to take them out. So you just think about how many things were, oh my God, we need to get those benches out of here, or oh, we need to put benches in here. And even stuff like in Expo 67, they realized at the very last minute they didn't have enough trash cans. And they went around and they had to go to all sorts of cities and said, would you please send us your trash cans and put them around the site, because they had, whatever way somebody had overlooked, they put in all these really neat trash cans, which were formed out of concrete and part of benches, but they had about 10% of what they needed. So they had to run around and get benches, and they had to get trash cans from other cities. And of course, the cities were very proud to be part of it. Real quick on this one.
Well, when you talk about internal politics, two things come to my mind. One is Moses paying the rent for the Illinois pavilion. And the other is in Seattle, the foofara about the girly shows and the gayway.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing like that here for this particular one, but yeah, I don't even think anybody even proposed anything like that, but they probably wouldn't let them do it. In this one, you can see the pictographs here for the men's room and the ladies' room. Expo 67 became famous for being the first big user of pictographs in a setting like this because of being the dual language situation they were dealing with. They later revised these to make them much more recognizable, because the one on the left is not immediately saying, oh, it's a woman, the ladies' room is over that way. So they put these out, and then during the course of Expo updated them and came up with designs who look more like we had today.
And there's a trash can right next to it there.
Just about to mention is a dumpster there, which they had a nice concrete pad for it, and it was during the day people could come out and dump it, and then at night they would come and take it away, which is better than in some spots. In the 64 fair, sometimes these things were just scattered haphazardly. At least here they seem to have planned, okay, we're going to need dumpsters because these things are going to generate trash, but let's put it in a way that it's not quite as obtrusive as it looks like it's sitting in the middle of a walkway. You can see it's off to a little niche there.
Carrie and I have a friend that collects those signs, the bathroom signs. There's some really creative ones. They're really, really funny.
There's one I have a picture of. Hang on a second. Let's see if I can find this really quick. If you want to collect signs, let's see. I got to go find this really quick. As long as we're on the subject. So let me just look while you're all looking at that.
Yeah, Tom, Disney has a few clever ones too that I've seen.
I can't find it right now. If you go to Santa Monica, the Santa Monica Pier, there's a sign there for men's room, ladies' room, and another one for men's urinals. And I keep saying, where's the women's urinal sign? I mean, it just strikes me as so strange that it's the men's urinal sign. And maybe your friend can go and get that. When they say they collect them, are they pry them off bathroom walls or something?
Well, no, they're like for sale at like swap meets and stuff like that, or just, like we have some industrial stores that just sell that stuff. It's meant to be sold to restaurants and.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We need to.
If she can't get the actual thing, she'll just take a picture of it
Which reminds me, when we went to Knott's Berry Farm, you go into Mrs. Knott's restaurant, you go into the restroom, there's a sign there about no picture taking in the restroom. So of course I took a picture of the sign.
Yeah. That's how it is at Club 33.
Yes, that's right. Yes, there's a sign there too about no pictures. I did not take a picture of that because if they throw me out of Knott's, I don't care, but I didn't want to get thrown out of Club 33.
Hey, fair enough. Back in the day, that was not a rule. So we do have a photo or two
Oh,
of
back
like,
with Club 33.
the women's bathrooms because their toilets were unique. They look like wicker chairs, right? You know, that's how many places have things like that. But I might
How do
have
you
one.
make it? How do you make a toilet look like a wicker chair?
Well,
I have a photo to show you.
Yeah. So here's the blocks.
Bill,
Yes.
are you familiar with up 101 near San Luis Obispo, the Madonna Inn?
Yes.
And their restrooms that are part of the restaurant and the main part of the hotel, the lobby of the hotel, they were famous for years. So I went to school up there and they were famous for years because the men's restroom had all this little weird waterway thing and spinning wheels and stuff like that. It was very decorative. And so men would wait till the room was empty. Then they would stand out front, open the door, let their wives go in to see the bathroom because everybody wanted to see the bathroom, and people were taking pictures of it. But it was so funny to see a guy. You'd walk up and the guy said, "My wife's in there looking. Can you wait just a minute?"
It still happens today. That was
Yeah.
just like a few weeks ago when we were there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
a,
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that remained, that part of it, because that was
Well,
kind of funny and fun.
That's funny.
there's a hotel in New York, the Royalton, and the men's room was really a work of art. One of the things, well, all the urinals were individually sculpted of metal. And then to get into one of the, the booth, what do you call them?
Stalls.
Stalls, thank you. There was a wall of mirrors. It's just like one big mirror. You had to keep pressing until one popped open. So women were constantly going in there to look at it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what the restroom at the Magic Castle was like, but I think that was very unique too.
I was just going to mention the men's room of the Magic Castle. When you first went in, there was a machine. It was a payphone there, but it had a machine next to it. You could put a quarter in and push a button, and it would play things. And it would say like, press button 1 for airport announcements, and it would say like, now boarding gate 27, flight 32, or whatever. And another one was, all sorts of different like office sounds. It said, use this as your excuse and where you are. But over the urinal, it looked like a mirror, right? But then all of a sudden the face would show up in the mirror and the guy started laughing and says, boy, you're not really well built or something like that. It's like,
Bill,
I have no idea what they had in the ladies' room of the Magic Castle, but.
Can you back up a couple of slides? There was the Ontario Pavilion.
Yes.
Let's see which one it was. Yeah, isn't that the old Canadian flag?
Yep, it is.
Yes. Yeah. You're right. That
Yeah, there it is.
Still flying for that period of time. Yes, you're right. They still were.
Yeah.
Good catch. You guys catch all these things I miss. I'm too busy looking at this and zooming in on it and saying, okay, all right. How am I going to
wait till you get your new glasses. You'll be seeing everything.
Well, the best thing is after I have the cataracts done, I can see just how beautiful Carol is. So it's worked out well. And again, Kenny Mavick. And again, let's see, that was July 67.
What does that word mean, Catamavic?
It's a Canadian for meeting place.
A meeting place.
It's a Canadian native.
Yeah, it's a native Canadian word for meeting place. And I know that because the first picture I ever licensed to a book was the Kenny Mavic, and I had to write a little caption for it. It was a book of all things. It was a book on mathematics, and it was done for school kids trying to teach them how different things of geometry are everywhere. And they said, you wouldn't expect to find a pyramid in a building. Well, besides the ones you know about in Egypt, they were also here. And yes, it's Intuit for meeting place. So see the things you learn on these talks.
Yeah.
They limit the number of people on the top of that thing so it didn't get top heavy.
No, no, this thing was built like a battleship. I think the whole thing, if they limited it, was because there was just no room. But that stayed there for years, and when they took it down, the foundations, they had quite a job actually getting the foundations out of the ground. For a while, they just sawed it off at ground level, and then they eventually redeveloped that part of the site. But it was this thing was built to last. And again, main Canadian pavilion over here, and then the People Tree down below, concerts and things held down here, or trees that we looked at before. Engineers Plaza, Haiti, and other pavilion and Caribbean nations down here. Indians of Canada, and of course over here, we see Habitat, one of the cranes used to build it, and then the bridge coming over.
What's that other building to the left? Yeah, right there.
I think this was called Atlantic Provinces, and they had a
Oh.
giant thing down below with the whale, and they were also building a ship, which they were frantically racing to get done in time, and did finish that they could sail at the end of Expo. So it was a
Look at all the
giant.
smog in the air. See all that smog? Maybe there was a forest fire
Oh
nearby.
yeah, that was the era of '67. This is another giant cantilevered structure. You can just make out a pylon here and a pylon over here holding
Yeah.
it. So this was almost all open to the air. Had a very, very popular seafood restaurant that had an 1.5 to 2 hour wait at all times. So again, whatever the prices were, it was priced well enough that it was supposedly one of the best restaurants at the fair.
Did that fountain on the right have a name?
This one?
Yeah.
I don't think it's a fountain, or maybe this it's a sculpture, and yeah, this was Engineers Plaza. So whether or not this was called something else, I don't know, but I don't think this is a fountain. I think they're all in a dry area. There may be a small amount of water or something down below. We'll look in.
Yeah, it looks like there's a little bit of water, maybe.
Yeah, it looks like a little basin underneath it.
Yeah, it looks kind of dry though. So
Well, it looks like there's some water. If you look just above the person in red that's looking at it, it looks like a kind of a mist almost coming out of it or something,
could be.
or a fine spray of water. Yeah.
And just bopping
Okay.
around the site.
My dumb question, which I know you probably addressed at some point and I've missed it or I don't recall, but this geodesic dome that the US pavilion that influenced Epcot, right?
Well, that's one of the things you don't know. You wonder how many people, and I do talk in one of my talks about Disney and World's Fairs. I do show how Disney I said, which was the influence? Was it the Perisphere from the '39 World's Fair, or was it the U.S. Pavilion from Expo '67? But I said, you wonder what was the impetus for certain things that came along, and I definitely show this as an example. Of
Thank
course, whoever came up with the idea will never admit. They'll just say they came up with it on their own. But yeah, I know, different people went to these things, and sometimes it's even subconscious. Do you purposely say, I'm going to go copy that, or, gee, a big round thing that would be really cool. Maybe you saw it like I did at 15 years old.
Well, yeah, the geodesic, being there when they were doing this, I don't remember exactly who came up with the first sketch of the idea of a dome structure like that, but it was basically, a geodesic dome. What's what's the engineer that came up with all that?
Buckminster
Buckminster Fuller.
Yeah, Buckminster Fuller. His name came into play a little bit in discussions, but it was just seen as something that there's something kind of neat, and probably you're right, subconsciously both those structures, and maybe more to some degree the perisphere might have been more of an influence because of the fact that you went in at the bottom and here was this big ball just sitting there, because in the early going, and even to some degree the theme structure for the World's Fair, the 64 World's Fair, that was part of the thinking of something, because there was at one point discussions on projecting images or creating images on the surface of that were some kind of idea, showing you, you know, kind of a microcosm of what you're about to see in Epcot Center type of thing.
It's sort of, we had the Vegas Dome before the Vegas had it, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
This over here is a canal that industrial shipping would go through. So you might find one of the tankers on its way to the Great Lakes going through there. This was August of '67. This roll went jumped all over the place. So we're gonna go to July of '67. Again, I love these street lights. I gotta go and make one of these. Of course, I can make nothing. I have no skills on that, but
It'd be real easy, Bill, just a pipe and one of Carol's dishes.
every time I go into the kitchen to get something like a pair of scissors, she says, "You need to put that back." So
July seems kind of late for tulips.
yeah, yeah, maybe there's got to be an old plate in there you use. The dishes we use all the time. What do they call, Carol? What are they oh God, the heavy ceramic dish.
Fiestaware.
Fiestaware, yeah. I don't think I can make this out of a Fiestaware dish, but I'll see what we can find.
Fiestaware, not
yeah.
Corningware.
It's one of the
Oh.
few, well, one of the few American-made dishes, and they last forever unless you drop them on the floor. So
Yeah.
I've only lost one. I think in all the time I've had them, I've only lost one
They
because
all
Martha
they're
dropped
heavy,
it on the
too.
floor.
they survived
And
the
they're very
earthquake.
heavy.
Yeah.
Well, they're well, yeah, I guess heavy, but not terrible.
No.
Yeah, heavy.
So Plaza of Nations, and again, this is being refurbished. All this wood stuff rotted away and being redone now. The hovercraft.
Carol, what color of Fiestaware have you got?
I have all different colors actually, because when we had the big earthquake, I lost everything I had in the kitchen and I went to a restaurant seconds, a supply store, I guess, for seconds. And
Yeah.
I went with a sprayer and paper towels because the stuff was dirty. And I found a whole bunch of pieces of Fiestaware. So I have green and blue, not the dark blue, and
Okay.
pink and
About
white.
6 colors, yeah.
I don't know, a bunch of colors.
How long ago was that earthquake? When was the earthquake?
94.
I'm sorry,
Martin.
How long ago was the
earthquake
earthquake?
It was
32
1994.
years now, right?
99. Okay.
Yeah, 94.
Yeah.
So are you still eating on the Fiestaware today?
Yes,
what you're
every day, every day.
Oh, excellent. That is just so great to hear. I love hearing that.
Oh, I don't know. Okay. I never liked it before the earthquake, and then I decided I did like it. And that's why I put together a whole set at a very reasonable price because of where I bought it. 'Cause some
You
of
don't want
them-
new dishes? You don't want new dishes now after all these years?
do I want new dishes?
Yeah, they're 30 years old already and they don't match.
Why would I want new dishes if these are good?
You know,
That's my thing.
you're supposed to mix the colors when you use them. I mean, some people all use the only one color, the blue or the green.
No. We have
But
multicolored
ideally-
dinners.
Well, you're supposed to mix the colors when you use them. That's what makes it fiesta. You
Maybe
know,
so. I mean, now they have colors that didn't exist when I bought them, like a very navy blue kind of color or whatever they call it, dark
Yeah.
blue.
Yeah, like a
Which-
cobalt blue.
Yeah, and I don't have that because I didn't update it. But like I said, I've only lost one dish in all that time. I have one chipped dinner plate, but I haven't gotten rid of it because it's not that bad, but it's at the bottom of the stack, so it doesn't get used that often.
Well,
They're
sometimes
great, really great. They were made wonderfully, and
well, I'm glad to hear this. My grandparents had them, and I remember as a child, 4, 5, 6 years old, living in New Jersey, eating dinner and meal on them in my grandparents' kitchen at the kitchen table there. It's just a wonderful memory, and I'm glad to know that you have them and that you use them still.
yeah. I mean, I do have good china also, which we maybe use once or twice a year. And that was only because my mother-in-law said, "Oh, you have to have real china, bone china." And so I got a set of, they're beautiful, but I don't use them. I have to hand wash them, and it's just not worth it.
When
What
sometimes
company
you
made
said that-
Fiesta ware? Who makes them?
Oh, yeah.
It was Fiesta ware, I think. I have to
Yeah.
look at
It's not made by Corning?
No,
No,
no.
Fiestaware was the brand. Fiestaware was the brand.
when
Look
I
it
was
up.
at the table though, I would at first say, okay, I'm going to put down a blue plate, a blue bread plate, a blue salad plate, a blue soup bowl. But then you can use them at different rates, so they're all stacked in the what you call it, the shelf in random order. And now when the table gets set, it's set in random order. So
Which,
come over here, it's definitely Fiesta. So she's coming back with a plate.
Yeah, at the back.
Here's the
Oh,
plate.
not muted. The back of it says genuine Fiesta, and then there's some letters that I guess identify where it was made, and then USA. Because I think maybe there were fakes made
Oh, there's
elsewhere.
all sorts of knockoffs.
yeah.
Yep, so we
Anyway.
use those. We don't use
They're
Melmac.
heavy and they're fragile.
Yeah.
Heavy and fragile.
Oh, they're not fragile. They're
No. That's what I'm saying. The only dish I lost was when my daughter dropped it on the tile floor and it broke.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't even have chip dishes except for one, and I don't know how that happened.
Now, Bill, you just mentioned Melmac. That's what I grew up with was
Yeah,
Melmac.
we had that too.
Yeah, so I enjoy. I come from the planet Melmac.
Yeah.
All right,
Of course,
Carol, I'm
they were unbreakable, but if you hit it with a hammer hard enough, it literally exploded.
Well, but I'm
Oh,
saying
There
if
was
you
a certain
dropped it on
tension.
a
I'm not talking about Fiesta, I'm talking about Melmac.
Oh, Melmac.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There was some
Melmac
kind of
is-
a weird tension in them, and they would literally explode.
I
Yeah,
found out,
Melmac is Tupperware.
I found out the word unbreakable has different meanings to different people. I bought a whole set of Christmas ornaments at Disneyland, and I brought them back to New York and brought back my suitcase and gave my mother the thing. And it was a round ball ornament. And she said, you weren't worried about this getting broken in your suitcase. I said, no, it's unbreakable. And she goes, it can't be unbreakable. So I said, here, watch. And I dropped it on the hearth of the fireplace, and it dropped. And the ball stayed perfectly intact, and all of the artwork inside broke off from it and fell into a little dust pile.
I'll tell you
I
what.
took so much grief from my mother for the next couple of years about, you think you know it all, don't you? It technically didn't break.
It's amazing how we get off topic here, isn't it?
It is. So going back to topic, whoosh. Okay, there's the sound of the hovercraft going past. Very loud. Some of the canals, people love to go back and take pictures of the site today, and they'll go and match up, like this bridge will still be there and the railings will have changed or whatever, but they'll still show what the site looks like today and put up it then. And there's one guy that does it all the time and uses a lot of my pictures. Very nice. He always makes sure he says where he got it. But he will ask me, hey, I got this picture. Do you have anything of this? And then match them up. By now we know where we are here. And down here. Again, the Expo services, they were not all any one design. They were the round ones, square ones, so all sorts of different things.
And what always kind of amazes me on this style of the service area, it's on a bridge, and look how it must have created a bottleneck. If you look at to the right side of the snack bars and all, it's a very narrow
Yes.
space to walk on. You know?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Although some of it may be compression by a telephoto lens. Sometimes
Could be, but even if you look at, just like the official map, you can kind of see
oh
that
yeah.
it must have created a bottleneck.
So this one was processed in May '67, super early. The banks have already started some erosion. As I said, you can imagine they were doing damage control. As oops, that fell into the river. Bring out a truckload of rocks and dump it in there. But the place is just open, and you can see all the sod and everything they put on the side here has already been vanishing into the river. I imagine the
How
site
much has disappeared? How much today has disappeared there? Has it collapsed yet?
all this is gone, and this was a giant, looked like rivulet that they filled in with rock. So you can imagine they'd probably get up every morning and go and see how much of the site had disappeared and where they needed to dump something to protect it.
Well, yeah, they probably were landscaping the sod in just as it was the main spring rainy season, so it never had a chance to get roots down into the ground, and it
Right.
just would slide off.
That's what they
Yeah,
said. It just slid like, your feet would slide on ice.
Yeah.
There are pictures of them
That's-
laying sod on opening day.
Well, it's the carrot in the river. You have a lot of erosion there.
Oh, yeah. So then
You
we're
can
in
see how fast the
September
water's flowing.
'67, one of the longer named pavilions, Trinidad and Tobago and Grenada. So down below, they had the steel band drums would come out and play here, and then some of the boats getting ready to take people out for their rides. Uh-oh, don't go. We're not allowed. Can't go.
Don't look.
Yeah, look, but don't touch, right?
Wasn't there a big issue with people, Americans trying to bring Cuban cigars and rum
Yes, back into
across
the
the border?
States. Yeah. When it was really funny. We went up to Man in His World, I think in about 1969. Yeah, it was 69. I was up at college, and I had not had any idea that Man in His World survived. Because there was no mention that in my circles. And I drove up to Montreal to see some friends, and I looked across the water, and my God, there was Expo '67. What's it still doing here? So we went over to Man in His World and just had a wonderful time. And I went grabbed all sorts of brochures. We had also brought back something called Applejack, which is a very potent alcohol you make you get apple cider and you bury it in the ground, and the cold weather will separate the alcohol and becomes again extremely potent. We were bringing some of that back, and we'd also stopped and brought back a whole bunch of firecrackers to have fun with because they were immediately available. So I took them and put them into the spare tire of my car, figuring if they look in the car, they won't see that. And I just threw all the brochures on the top of the tire. So we came through customs, and the guy said, "Where you been?" I said, "Canada." And he says, "Anything to declare?" "No, nothing." He says, "Okay, open your trunk." And I opened up the trunk, and he starts looking at the brochures and turns to me and says, "Are you some sort of communist?" And I said, "No, why?" Because what's all these brochures from the USSR? I went to Man in His World in Montreal, and they were just brochures. And he says, "You're sure you're not a communist?" I go, no, I'm going to college. Well, what was really interesting on this, to make a long story even longer, was he finally lets me go through, right? But he had asked me all these questions. Where are you from? I'm going to Clarkson College. What dorm are you in? I'm in Reynolds 107. Where do you live? I'm from Baldwin, New York. My college roommate was in the next car. He pulls up. The guy says, "Okay, where are you going?" And he says, "Potsdam, New York." He goes, "Where do you go?" "Clarkson College, Reynolds 107. I come from Baldwin, New York." This is Bill, who just called me during this talk. We met in Boy Scouts and both went up to college. So I had driven about 50 feet or 50 yards into the United States, and I'm waiting for Bill. And now the guy's got Bill up on the side of the car, and he's waiting for me to come back. And I'm going, "Oh no, no." But yeah, you can imagine this guy from customs. 2 cars show up in a row with the identical answer to every question he asks. Where are you from? Baldwin.
You must have been a communist.
Yeah, but I was so glad he never made me move that spare tire.
Well, I had heard a story talking when somebody mentioned about cigars being snuck back into the US because they were contraband. There was somebody who went there with that intention, and they hit him. When you said the spare tire, that's what triggered it in my mind. It was like, yeah, this guy hit him in the spare tire, and he actually took 2 spare tires because he wanted to bring a bunch back. And he thought he was very clever about it because when the guy at the border asked him, I said, "Well, why do you have 2 spare tires?" I said, "Well, I went into Canada, and never knew if I was gonna, hit some bad roads and need extra tires." But he finally said, "Well, where else did you go when you were there?" And he said, "Oh, we went to Expo." And he said, "Oh, really? Did you go to the Cuba Pavilion?" "Yeah, sure." And then all of a sudden he realized, "Oh, I spoke too quickly." And the guy said, let's take a look. And he pushed on one of the spare tires. And of course, they hadn't filled them with air. They had just put them back on the wheel, like, full of cigars. So the guy went, "Well, this one's flat." And he like pushed down in, and he could took a flashlight, then they found the contraband and they took it all. They took the 2 spare tires and you know, I don't know if I don't remember if the guy got fined or not, but I just remember he went to all that trouble and he slipped up on answering too quickly with one question that, yes, I went to Cuba. He should have not even said Expo. He should have just said, oh, we went camping in wherever, you know. So anyway.
Well, we've got to Canada. The Canadian version of beer was better than the American version of the beer, and you could go over and bring back a case of it duty free. So we'd go into the cafeteria because I went to school about 20 miles from the Canadian border. We'd go and say, anybody want to go to Canada for beer? And people were like, well, I'll go, but yeah, I get a 6-pack out of the deal. So you put 5 guys in the car, drive up there, and you'd be all crammed in the car. And the Canadian guys go, ABC store? Yep. You turn around, come back, and the people, how long were you in Canada? 43 minutes. The guy says, how many cases do you have? 6. One, two, oh, okay. Yeah, 6 guys. Okay, go ahead. He got very used to making beer runs. Their Molson's was better than American Molson's.
We used to get Moosehead beer. That was my favorite.
Moosehead, okay. People are crazy. I posted a picture. This became the Steel Pavilion in Man and His World became the Armaments Pavilion, and so they had a picture of a cannon outside, and they went in and talked about the history of Gatling guns and howitzers and everything else. And somebody posted on because they know so much better than everybody else on the Facebook page that this was all CGI, that they never would have had a pavilion at a World's Fair about armament. And people, it was actually, this is real, sort of thing. But no, Bill did this in CGI. You can't convince some people. Another one of my absolute favorite crazy weird pavilions, the Canadian Pulp and Paper, all these stylized trees and everything. This giant piece of sculpture over here had no name. The sculptor did it. I never understand how you do it and you don't come up with a name like sculpture number 12 or something, but I always thought that was kind of like a Mobius strip that gone wild. This was later used as the Interpol Pavilion and other things where they painted it. Oh, it was different weird psychedelic colors, but I just thought this was a great design. Down below is just a regular building, but with all this stuff sitting up on the roof, your eyes are not looking at the rectangular building down below. And
According to the book, this was Expo. This was the most photographed building at Expo.
I could see why. Yeah, and then down below they had the displays on how they made paper, and they had a little thing there, and you could take home a scrap of paper that was made at Expo, a little souvenir. But I just thought this was a great design. Again, totally non-functional, and that's what to me made it just, it's like I said, eye candy. I loved it. Pretty quiet day here. If you're a Doctor Who fan, I keep looking at these things, it's the Weeping Angels. If anybody's a Doctor Who fan, I'm sure you'll get that. And if you're not a Doctor Who fan, you should be. Quiet day in Expo. I think we got time for one more, and then I gotta go get my new glasses. Which I am looking forward to.
Yeah.
Okay, getting near the end, October. So we have Deutschland again.
How dirty the roof got. Yeah.
What's that?
Look how dirty the roof got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the brass rail bubbles.
I was gonna say it's like the brass rail in mountains.
You notice anything about this, by the way? You guys got good eyes.
That guy's standing on it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, he's lost and he's wearing a tie.
Yeah.
My guess is he's working there and he's doing some sort of survey of something up on the roof, but you could definitely see, although it was a fabric roof, the fabric was not lightweight.
I think maybe he has an early version of GPS. He was following the instructions to a T.
Well, Bill, was it actually fabric, or wasn't it more of a plastic type material?
I think it was a combination. I think it was a cloth fabric with a plastic covering underneath that for waterproofing. Yeah, you can see how the sun is sort of shining on it over here, giving a little bit of
Right.
glare.
Early spandex.
Yeah, but this was not like, this was not like hard plastic cast in place. You can see that's why they had, is again, if we zoom in on it, all
Yeah,
these
you can
little
see all the
things that are
cables.
holding up sections of it. These are all the anchors that are holding it above. Crazy job, though. I mean, not too many people could probably say they were walking around up there.
It's a roustabout.
Yeah. Ethiopia, which during this time of year might have been good. During summer, they got very warm in there. Korean Pavilion, the tower is still there, like the other sculpture. It's lying on its side. Why that has been saved and is the building is there, but it's not used for anything right now. It's sealed off. And again, why some buildings saved out of any others. Mention the
See the
trash.
little sign on the edge of the bench? Every bench has a sign on the edge.
I was just going to zoom in on that. You could donate and sponsor a bench. So this particular one was the St. Lawrence Sugar Corporation, who I had a display there, and they sponsored the benches. And some of them you can see was sponsored by Mr. and Mrs. Smith, sort of thing. The trash cans, as I mentioned, they were part of the concrete, and they realized they didn't have enough of them, so they had to run off and get trash cans. But yes, you were encouraged to sponsor a bench.
And since the Expo organizers were so down on corporate pavilions, that was a way to get your name, before the
Yeah.
public.
Right.
Yeah, in New York, there would have been whatever this sugar company was called. They probably would have had a separate pavilion.
Probably. They did have a display.
With all that foot walking, nobody wants to sit there because it's a hardwood bench without a backrest. So even though they're tired from walking, nobody's on the bench.
That's probably early in the day and they're not tired yet. But the sugar people did have a display, Randy. It was over near the Habitat area, and it was right near the the art museum, as a matter of fact. So they did have a very small display over there, and maybe that was part of what it was. So that, hey, we'll buy you 100 benches so we can put in something about sugar. New York State, rather, these supposed to be the Adirondack Mountains. And again, op art being such a big thing, we have to have, you zoom in on it again. What does that say about the state of New York? It's just,
It went from the 10 of tomorrow to that in 2 years.
yeah.
Did those turn?
No, I don't think so. I think they just sat there. And
Because I thought maybe they turned and it'll had a little speaker below as you're watching them saying, "You will go to New York. You will go to New York. You will go to."
Yeah. In later years, and ironically, with all these things here, this became the LSD Pavilion. It was about that is no joke. It became a pavilion about the wonders of pharmaceutical things that you could pursue. It was
And then
also
they rotated then, I'm sure.
Yeah, we was used one year as an Expo museum pavilion, which is kind of neat. So, but yeah, that's the Adirondack Mountains.
No, actually, Irv, they didn't rotate because the people were if they were in the LSD pavilion.
Side view of Air Canada. Getting near the end, it's getting chilly. This might have a little bit more detail on some of the tiles. Somebody kept pretty busy putting that together.
Oh.
The China Pavilion, again, this is mainland China at this point in time.
It's all ceramic roof tiles too.
Not mainland, it's Taiwan, right?
Well, I'm sorry, Taiwan. I meant to say Taiwan. Yes, Formosa, Taiwan. Mainland China didn't exist in the eyes of the world at that point. They had a fire.
That's a ceramic roof up there, all ceramic.
I don't know if it's ceramic or not. Take a look. They had a fire that broke out in the kitchen here, and yeah, looks that way. It was the only major problem they had during Expo of that type, where they had to close the pavilion and actually, I don't know. I think the fire broke out in a display, not in the kitchen, and the kitchen stayed open, so they were able to keep the restaurant open in the back. But they had a fire, and they immediately recalled everybody involved back to China for replacement or whatever. But all sorts of pictures of this thing all covered in smoke and damage, and then scaffolding and everything as they fixed it. But they think they said it was a short in the electrical wiring.
And from that day on, all the food they served was like smoked salmon.
Here's your wood-covered Vermont wall.
Yep. Guarantee you this sold. Well, Canada has maple syrup, so they probably didn't sell maple syrup.
Yeah. And again, you can see it's a very small pavilion overall. There's a building down below right here, but you put this big arch up over here, which has nothing in it. It's just an archway. Same thing back here. So take this little building, put some arches on here, and it looks 4 times the size.
Mm-hmm.
So a small state.
And more interesting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, a lot more interesting.
Make a great mountain cabin.
Yeah, wouldn't it? The snow would come right off. You wouldn't have to worry about going shoveling your roof.
Yep, and it wouldn't overheat because you got that extra set of roofs. Yeah, it's nice.
And just more general views.
The ducks of Canada.
So this is Man in His World. You can see the Montreal flag.
Oh yes, up here, right? Yeah, I missed the year on that. Right. Yeah, you can see.
How soon after Expo did Man in His World open? Was it a year later?
The very next year. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the Sydney Opera House.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Well, that will finish it for today. So appreciate folks joining. And next week, Carol has told me she's going to do a 2-hour talk on Fiesterware.
Oh, hey!
There you go.
If
She
she
draw the
should
whiteboard
decide,
and show us the breaks.
if she should change her mind, I have an idea. We could watch that new Disneyland handcrafted, and just have like you guys kind of comment on some of the things that you know that Leslie didn't talk about in that movie.
What I'm getting a kick out of is there's another one of our retired Imagineers, Tom Morris, and he knows an awful lot of the early WED people, and he knew some of them, like he was identifying somebody that was, oh, here's so and such at age 15 because his father worked in the park, and then he later came to work in Imagineering, but here he is visiting the park with his dad at when opening day and that sort of thing.
That's exactly who I thought when you were talking about the guy who was helping you with the French stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like he just rattles off these facts and figures like, he knows he grew up with all that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, Tom and I both started at Disney just about the same time. And we had overlapped on a few odds and ends. And
I think he helped with the creation of that documentary. He's part of we called him the Brain Trust at the very end, given credit. Yeah.
Yeah. Tim O'Day and the others. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he's working on a book on the history of WDI too.
I was just going to mention that. We
Yeah.
went back to Disney about 3-4 years ago for something. I always like to go by and just see where my old offices were, because I had 3 of them on the lot at different times, and they're usually closed, doors locked or whatever. We went one day and one of the doors was open, and I went in, and there were all these pictures on the wall of early planning for Disneyland, because it turned out the office that I had been the first planning room ever for Disneyland, which I didn't know. Back when I worked there, I would have been thrilled. When I was there, it was just a bunch of desks and cubicles. But there were all these pictures on the wall. So I took pictures of the pictures on the wall. And then Tom had said, oh, he was in there working on his book. Please don't post those pictures because they were proofs of the pages of the book. So I keep saying, are you going to have this book done before the 100th anniversary of the park? and
Before I die?
No, but the trouble is, Tom is always finding something new, so he's got to put in the book. And
One more thing. Yeah.
With the TV book, it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I keep saying to Tom, you can always do a volume 2, but please get this correct before we're done. And he's always finding something new, and he'll send me stuff like, hey, can you restore this picture for me? I want to use it in the book, and it's all bright red and tatty or whatever, and I'll do it for him. And he says, oh God, that gives me another chapter. So I get the book out. I think
so it's your fault. It's your own fault.
Yeah, no, Tom, no more pictures for you.
Yeah.
I just asked him
Yeah.
last
No, but
a couple of weeks ago when that was happening. He's all, "We got the pages laid out, blah blah," but he didn't really give a date. When I first met him in person was back in 2018, and that's when he was talking about the archaeology of Disney, and that was when it was more. I think the book has shifted, right? You would know probably more than I, but it was more like where, like what Brock was saying, like the locations of certain things. But I think it's shifted a little bit from what I know.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think he has a date now, and I think Disney's given him a date, and I'll have to ask him again, you know, whether or not that shifted. But yeah, it has been interesting. Like I said, just the sample pages he had on the wall, I go, oh man, I'd buy this sucker, you know. But you know, Tom, get it out, you know. But yeah, I mean,
but I think you made a point there, Bill, that you know, if you write too much, no matter how interesting it is, if the book gets so long that you get so bogged down in it, versus it was a quick read, you know, not too fast. Obviously, there's a lot of information in it, but you get through and it's like, wow, that was really fascinating. And then you find out a couple of years later another volume with even more stories. Well, you don't feel like I had to read all this at one time, and I finally just got so bogged down. It's something to look forward to.
yeah,
And
yeah, I'll have to
anyway,
twist his arm again. But when I found out that my office, my lowly little office, was the first planning room for Disneyland, I said, "Wow!" You know, the aura. And then here's the map of who sat where and who did everything, and he's got some really cool stuff in there. To me, it was just one E27, my office. You know, I mean,
Didn't we all
That's
end up
really cool.
in offices that had been part of the Disney history?
what was that?
I said, didn't we all end up in
Yeah.
office space that was part of the Disney history?
Right. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, this was Disneyland about, you know, the first, this was the locked room that nobody could go into, you know, that they were
Right.
Disneyland. Yeah.
Well, you know, the film that Walt did on Epcot Center prior to his
Yeah.
death, for a while, my office was the room, the actual planning room. I think they built a second one on stage someplace to do
Yeah.
that movie because
Yeah.
they didn't have the depth, but the actual room it was based on with the rolling ladder across the big map on the wall, that was my office for a while. And I got to brag about the fact that I had the largest office at Disney because it was that one big room that
Cubic
was
feet.
my office. I was down at one end of it, and Frank Stanek, there were two offices to the side of it. Frank Stanek was in one because I was working for him on Project Centennial. You know what that is, the ski resort. And Pat Scanlon and who was the other guy? Can't think, but they were all working with him on that. But you know, I got to brag that I had the biggest office at Imagineering. So
Was it
and it had
bigger
that
than
history. It
Disney's?
was
Was it bigger than Disney's? Disney had a bigger office?
no, well, if you took his two offices, his working office and his other one, and put them together, this was about that big. It was a very large, it was a conference room. But it became my office, and we were using it to put up all the stuff on Project Centennial, which was the ski resort they were looking to build in the Sierras. And so I was down at one end of it, so it was my office, and I got to say I had the biggest office in the world. So
Well, from talking to Tom, I found out my office had actually been a snack bar. When the studio was first built, they had it over in the Ink and Paint building. They had a Ink and Paint cafeteria, not cafeteria, but a snack bar for the ladies. And in the animators building, they had a snack bar for the animators. And like again, I had no idea. Because I got the map, and so well, there's the library. I know that was right behind me and everything. There's the map. And there's pictures of guys sitting there in stools eating ice cream sundaes and, you know, having a great time. And then they ripped that out, put in the Disneyland planning room, and then, you know, eventually took that out. But my first office was in the Ink and Paint, the Shorts building. And I was able to go back and find out who was the animators that were sat in there and what films they worked on. And you go, oh my God, they did this cartoon in this room, that sort of thing. And the week I started, Jimmy McDonald was teaching Wayne Allwyn how to do the voice of Mickey Mouse 2 doors down from me. I was like, this is a crazy place to work. You know? So yeah, so I went from the Ink and Paint building to the animation building, and we ended up in the Shorts building. And unfortunately, there we were up on the second floor, right with a patio. It was really great because right next to me was the cafeteria, snack bar, or whatever. And
Are you talking about the tea room?
The tea room, that was the.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, couldn't remember the name. Frances, who ran the tea room, was the nicest lady, and you'd go in there and they'd make you a malted milk or a hot fudge sundae or chocolate whatever, and we'd walk through the office, and we had this big patio that we could look down at the back lot, or a set of stairs. We'd walk down and go and eat our ice cream on the porch from the yellow house from Summer Magic. And it was like, and they still had the furniture they had moved from the movie, all this old rattan wicker furniture. And we'd just be sitting out there and, eating our ice cream sundaes on the big yellow house. It was, it was a wonderful spot to work. I really had fun with it. Well, I hope folks enjoyed Expo 67 this week. And next week,
Very
we have
nice.
some more movies. I've been watching the films pile up. I had a whole bunch of other stuff. Like I said, we had the house work done this week. The guys installed the air conditioner and everything. They ran a little behind schedule. And then the next day they had to send a guy back because the first guys didn't wire everything quite right. But the first guy says, "My God, you own a lot of comic books," because they're all stacked in crates in the garage. And I said, "Oh, yeah." And then we got to know, it was very interesting because they were talking to these air conditioning mechanics, and they were saying, "Yeah, what, who did this one?" And it turned out the guy was a Batman fan, so we went down that hole. So
The week after Carol does her Fiestaware talk, I'll do my IKEA dishes talk. I bought them 15 years ago, and I remodeled my kitchen. Because I was looking to get Fiestaware, and Carol's right; it is reasonable for the product, but
Well, I bought it at the seconds. I didn't
well, yeah,
even
no,
get,
I had looked at places like that too,
Yeah.
but I had run out of money. I mean, I had budgeted like 15% or over for overages, like they always say to do, but I had got like 20% over, so it was like I was just buying cheap stuff but it's lasted the 15 years.
yes,
Oh, that's
it's
huge.
amazing how long some stuff lasts. It's we do not have the entire set of Fiestaware. We do not. Carol, I think we might have Fiesta salt and pepper shakers. We don't use them. We have a set of Mickey and Minnie. So when I worked at Warner Brothers, we had I still have them. Coyote and Roadrunner. What you call it, salt and pepper shakers, and so we have an eclectic collection of stuff. So I hope I see Michelle's all bundled up. I hope the storm doesn't treat you too badly back there. How many feet are you supposed to get?
It's either going to be 0 or 200 inches, right? They don't know.
Where are you at, Michelle?
I mean, all the money was cut from weather people, so God knows. So
Where are you
yeah,
living at, Michelle?
it's not supposed to start until 3 a.m. now. It was supposed to start earlier. It's been pushed back.
Where are you at?
I'm in Passaic County. I'm right outside of New York City.
Oh, outside New York. Yeah, I'm down in
So
North
I'm
Carolina.
in the Northeast.
The Orange County, New York Sheriff's Office put out something which I saved. I'm going to have to share it on my Facebook page. It was really wonderful. And it said, here's a map of the storm going to come, and it said it's going to be anywhere from 0 to 120 inches. And heck, we just don't know. And then it had this whole thing that said, okay, it's a storm warning. So everybody stop what you're doing, run out and go to the store and buy all the eggs and the bread and the milk that you can, because God knows you're going to need it. And make sure you get some toilet paper and go home and have your French toast and enjoy it. And I had never heard of French toast weather, despite living in the East. But then a friend of mine who lives back there mentioned French toast. It's because everybody not steals. They go and they hoard all the eggs and the bread and the milk and everything. So, well, he must be making
You got to use it.
toast. But then the Orange County Sheriff's gone on about, don't go and try to impress your neighbors by shoveling your sidewalk wearing shorts to show how tough you are. Because when you have the heart attack, we're not going to be able to get there to help you. I mean, it's this whole thing goes on and on. And it was very tongue in cheek. And I said, yeah, I wish the LAPD would have a sense of humor. I mean,
But you shouldn't buy anything perishable. If you lose power, what's the use of buying perishable food? You can't make French toast.
You just put it outside.
Put them outside.
Put it outside. It's
or just
to
leave it
feed
in
the
your
birds.
living room, which was going to get real cold.
Some of my friends have
They'll
been
be
toasting.
perfectly fine in the snow.
Yeah.
some of my friends have been posting things like if you invite somebody over for dinner or whatever, make sure you really like them because they may be there for 2 or 3 days.
My brother called yesterday. He lives on Long Island. He's posted a couple years ago. He was saying about when we were going up, a storm like this was nothing, and we looked forward to it because we would go down the streets and knocking on doors, shovel your sidewalk, charge them for it. Now as you get an inch of snow, the city is paralyzed. But he said he went into some store and the lines for the registers were 50 people deep. So he said he went to some place where the lines were really short and bought a bunch of beer and sat it out. And all of his people were saying, yeah, that's really funny. He goes, it wasn't a joke. He said, I'm not going to wait online for that. I'll sit at home. I got food in the house. I'll have a beer and look out the window at the snow. So
Yeah, I never understood when people go run and buy bread, milk, and eggs. And I'm like, you don't have food in your house. You're going to go out the morning of a snowstorm and buy up
But
stuff.
your
You don't have food
refrigerator's
in your
dead.
house?
You can't put milk and eggs if you don't have a refrigerator working.
No, then you put it outside. It'll be
It'll
fine.
freeze.
It
Michelle,
doesn't matter. It'll still be fine, right?
a year ago, we had a fire right here, right near. We had the big fires in LA, but we had one right near my house. And I was off that day, but they called, can you see smoke from your house? I went outside. I said, oh my God, yeah. So I spent the next 7 hours evacuating the neighborhood. But people would be coming driving up and they go, oh, I have to get home because my son's at home and I have to be bringing him something to eat. And he goes, there's nothing else in the house that, and again, you can't get in. There's fire hoses, there's trucks, there's everything. You can't get in. Well, he's got to have something to eat. I said, well, he can start chewing his nails because you can't get through here. But, there's nothing in the house for him to eat. Do you go out for every single meal? You drive out and pick him up for something for breakfast and you go and you get something for lunch. Now I'm going to get something for dinner. You can try the sob stories, but I can tell you after 34 years, I've heard them all.
So, I do have a joke, if you're all prepared for one of my stupid jokes.
As long as you don't say I'm
Let's
89,
hear it.
yeah.
Let's hear it.
Like, we were so poor when we were kids. And you're supposed to say how poor were you?
How poor were you?
We were so poor that at Christmas time we got used Mr. Potato Head, and we had to use French fries for potatoes.
Did you leave something out?
Keep the day job, Tom.
Okay. I tried.
Oh, boy.
Right. You had toys?
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else is Monty Python fans, but they go through one of those things about, I was so poor we did this and we had to, crawl this, to work and we barely had shoes to put on our feet. You had shoes, we had to put rags on our feet. Next time, you had feet?
Yeah.
Rodney Dangerfield did a bunch too. They're funny.
Yeah. There's always a one-upmanship. Well,
we need to let you go get your glasses.
I'm gonna go get my glasses, and I will see you folks next week.
Thanks so
Happy
much.
birthday again.
Okay, thanks, Bill.
Happy
Have a
birthday.
happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Bill.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
See you next
Thank you.
Saturday.
Bye.